Chapter 4201. Big Brother, today's inner disciple competition strictly forbids private fights. If you break the rules, you will be heavily punished. This brat dared to appear in front of us in order to provoke you. He has a sinister heart, you must not be fooled by him. Southern Sky Gate advised. Hearing this, Nan Tianba suppressed his anger and pointed at Yuzha's nose. Humph, you rebellious disciple, you actually dared to come back. You really have guts. That's good, I've been looking for you for so long and now you've come to me. Huh, isn't this Nan Tianba and Southern Sky Gate's martial uncles? I haven't seen you for a long time. Yuzha, on the other hand, was calm and composed. He didn't put the two of them in his eyes at all. Instead, he proudly laughed. Oh right, I was wrong. You two are no longer my martial uncles, wahahaha. Nonsense, how could we have such a rebellious disciple like you? Nan Tianba angrily said. You two have misunderstood. What I mean is, you two are not worthy to be my martial uncles. Ha 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 ha. Yuzha still had a fearless and arrogant expression on his face. You're courting death. Nan Tianba was unable to restrain his anger and was about to attack Yuzha. Even if he had to be heavily punished, he still had to teach this reckless disciple a lesson today. After so many months, he didn't know why Yuzha suddenly appeared and why he dared to act like this in front of the two of them. However, no matter what the reason was, it couldn't change the fact that this brat was a clown. With Nan Tianba's tyrannical personality, how could he tolerate someone throwing sand in his eyes? However, just as Nan Tianba was about to make his move, Yuzha suddenly coldly smiled and released his aura without any reservation. Surprisingly, he was at the early gold core stage. The two sides were very close. Nan Tianba and Southern Sky Gate were caught off guard and were so scared that they took a step back. Both of them were shocked and looked at each other. You're actually at the early gold core stage. How is this possible? Nan Tianba said with a face full of disbelief. He himself was also at the early gold core stage. Moreover, he was already very experienced, and was much stronger than the average beginning stage golden elixir realm expert. However, in front of this rebellious disciple, Yuzha, he actually felt a sense of danger, causing him to instinctively shudder. What's impossible about this? He was only at the early golden core stage. After a while, I'll be even stronger than this. Yuzha sneered proudly. His expression was filled with indescribable confidence. Humph. What a vile man. Although Nan Tianba and Southern Sky Gate were shocked, they still asked in a low voice, where have you been all this time? What do you think? Yuzha glanced at the two of them playfully, curled his lips, and said with a smile, speaking of which, this matter is actually quite interesting. I still have to thank the two of you. If it weren't for the two of you wanting to cut me into 1,000 pieces and use me as a living sacrifice, I wouldn't have had such a fortuitous encounter. Forgive me for being curious, but what are the two of you feeling right now? Was it apprehension, fear, or regret? Ha ha ha. Cut the crap. Don't run if you have the guts. Come out and fight me. I don't believe that I can't deal with a clown like you. Nan Tianba's anger soared to the heavens. Southern Sky Gate only had the strength of a peak foundation establishment cultivator, so he was no longer Yuzha's opponent. However, he was Nan Tianba. Even if he felt the threat of Yuzha, he didn't believe that he couldn't kill this rebellious disciple. No matter what crooked methods Yuzha used to increase his strength, in front of a veteran gold core early stage expert, he was still a paper tiger. Don't worry, I'm going to participate in the inner sect competition anyways. Who knows, maybe I'll pick you on the stage. At that time, in front of so many people, I'll return the humiliation you brought me, you old dog. Bit by bit, I'll return it to you, wahahaha. Yuzha calmly sneered. Being called an old dog in front of him. Nan Tianba was so domineering that his veins popped. He tightly clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Then what if I don't pick you? What will you say? Humph, then we'll directly challenge you. If there's no audience for a popular show like Revenge, don't you think it'd be boring? Yuzha smiled. From his words and actions, he didn't put Nan Tianba in his eyes at all. As for Southern Sky Gate, there was no need to even mention it. Alright, then we'll wait and see. Nan Tianba fiercely glared at him. He wanted to skin this scum alive, but it wasn't time yet, so he could only endure it for a while. He didn't know if someone had secretly done something, or if it was really a coincidence, but after a while, the result of the draw was actually Nan Tianba against Yuzha. Humph, it's really the will of the heavens. It looks like third brother's spirit in heaven wants me to take revenge for him. Nan Tianba sneered and took the lead to walk onto the stage. Hee, maybe he feels lonely and wants me to send you to accompany him? Yuzha also sneered. When he walked onto the stage, the entire audience was in an uproar. The matter of Yuzha killing his master, although it wasn't officially decided by the law enforcement hall and he wasn't wanted on the wanted list, it caused a huge uproar and everyone knew about it. Who would have thought that this guy would return at such a crucial moment in the inter-sect competition? Moreover, this guy was now an early-stage gold core expert. After Su Lingchong, he was the second person to suddenly return after disappearing, and his strength had inexplicably increased. For a moment, everyone in the audience had the thought of watching a good show. This kind of grudge match was something they loved to see. Even if everyone in the audience were gold core experts, they still had the heart to gossip. Both sides on the stage were at daggers drawn. After confronting each other for a moment, following the referee's order, both of them rushed forward at the same time. Both sides were filled with murderous intent, looking like they wanted to eat each other up. This Yuzha seemed a bit strange, and although Nan Tianba was only at the early stage of gold core, he was a ruthless character who killed decisively. His strength was much stronger than an average expert of the same level. Moreover, this was an unforgettable grudge match. Everyone thought that the process of this match would be very anxious, but they didn't expect that the development of the situation would be far beyond their expectations. In just one move, this grudge match was decided. Nan Tianba was directly swept away by a sword chi, and Yuzha won. Even when the referee announced the winner, the audience still hadn't reacted. It was completely silent, and everyone looked at each other in dismay. It was rare to see a good show to relieve boredom. How could it end like this? At this moment, on the viewing platform, Shanghai Tianhua was even more speechless. Another gold core expert had a perfect breakthrough, and this was already the fifth. Wasn't this world a bit too crazy? Below the stage, Southern Sky Gate hurriedly helped the embarrassed Nan Tianba up. Although he was sent flying in one move, Nan Tianba was after all experienced. At this moment, he actually didn't suffer any serious injuries. He only looked a bit embarrassed, that's all. Chapter 4202. Even so, in front of so many golden core experts, he was defeated by his traitorous disciple Yuzha in one move. This time, he had lost all of his face. He stood in place with a shocked expression, not daring to raise his head for a long time. Old dog, now you know how powerful I am. Wahahaha. Yuzha laughed proudly on the stage. This time, he had finally vented his anger. Nan Tianba and Southern Sky Gate looked at him hatefully, but they didn't dare to talk back. They could only lower their heads and leave the stage. Aside from the two of them, everyone present was at least a golden core expert. Yuzha was originally a nobody, yet he dared to be so arrogant. This naturally made people unhappy. However, Yuzha was able to defeat Nan Tianba in one move. His strength was obvious to all. No one was willing to provoke this kind of person for no reason. Lin Yi, who was in the crowd, couldn't help but furrow his brows. Yuzha's strength really couldn't be underestimated. His intuition told him that this guy and Su Lingchong had some kind of unknown relationship. After all, the two's performance was too similar. On the first day, the first round of the individual battles ended and the top 100 list was announced. Compared to the previous rounds, there was a big difference. There were a lot more new faces. Although there would always be a group of new golden core experts among the outer disciples of the three great pavilions, they would all participate in the inner sect competition. However, because of their strength, very few of them would enter the top 100 list. After all, they were both early-stage golden core experts. Compared to the outer disciples, the inner disciples' strength was at least one level higher. Under normal circumstances, very few people could win in this kind of situation. However, this time, there were many outer disciples that advanced to the top 100. Among them, Lin Yi and Meng Tong were even newcomers to the new pavilions. With so many new people emerging from the three great pavilions, it was like the new generation was pushing the old generation. On the second day, the second round of the individual battles began. It was still the elimination round. This time, Lin Yi's opponent really surprised him. It was actually Yu Zhe. The two of them faced each other from afar. The aura that Yu Zhe emitted made Lin Yi's heart tremble. Yesterday, he was far away from the stage, so he couldn't feel it too clearly. However, at this moment, he realized that this guy was not any weaker than him. If there were no accidents, this Yu Zhe should also be a perfect golden core expert. Lin Yi secretly determined in his heart, and besides being suspicious, he couldn't help but be even more surprised and bewildered. Su Lingchong, Meng Tong, and Yu Zhe kept having the feeling that there was a shapeless hand controlling all of this from behind. Hee, long time no see, Lin Yi. Last time, I was tricked by your crafty schemes. You won't be so lucky this time. Why don't you know what's good for you and directly beg me for mercy and admit defeat? Maybe I'll be merciful and let you live. Yu Zhe said with a cold smile. Beg for mercy? It was not impossible. But you seem to have it the other way around. It should be you begging me for mercy, right? Hee, in the few times we fought, which time didn't you flee in defeat? Lin Yi asked with a faint smile. He just got lucky. How dare you mention the past to me? Can't you see the current situation clearly? Do you really think you're invincible just because you have the title of Rookie King? Yu Zhe's expression instantly turned cold. Invincible? Then I'm not that ignorant. But if it's just dealing with scum like you, it's more than enough. Lin Yi's expression was still indifferent. Yu Zhe was about to taunt back when his expression suddenly changed. Because he noticed that Lin Yi's hands were purposely hidden behind his back, as if he was doing something petty. His mind quivered. Yu Zhe instantly recalled the scene when Lin Yi dealt with Nan Tianyong. Looking at this posture, this brat should be secretly condensing that whatever pill fire bomb again. So he purposely lured him to taunt and stall for time. Regarding this pill fire bomb, Yu Zhe had a shadow in his heart. Back then, Lin Yi's meager strength was enough to mess with Nan Tianyong, a peak late-stage foundation establishment expert, until he was half dead. Now that they were both early-stage golden core experts, no matter how confident he was in his own strength, he didn't dare to let Lin Yi hold back his big move. Don't even think about stalling for time. Use the same trick again. Yu Zhe didn't dare to continue talking nonsense. He hurriedly condensed sword chi at his fingertips and went straight for Lin Yi, swearing to interrupt Lin Yi's accumulation. Seeing this, Lin Yi didn't dodge. At the same time, his figure flashed towards Yu Zhe. When they were close enough, the hands hidden behind his back suddenly attacked, as if he wanted to slap Yu Zhe's face. As expected, Yu Zhe understood. He was certain that Lin Yi had a pill fire bomb in his hands. He didn't dare to take it head on. His figure flashed and he was about to dodge to the side. That was his intention all along, to lure Lin Yi's refinement fire bomb out. As long as he could dodge it, he wouldn't have to worry about anything else. The refinement fire bomb was a heaven-defying trump card, and he couldn't control it as he pleased. This was the perfect opportunity to deal a fatal blow to Lin Yi. But in the next moment, the expression on Yu Zhe's face became extremely interesting. Lin Yi didn't have anything in his hands. He didn't even condense any true chi, let alone a pill fire bomb. He was just fooling around with him. Yu Zhe instantly flew into a rage. But before he could do anything, Lin Yi had already swept his mad fire 1,000 legs on his body. Caught off guard, Yu Zhe was directly kicked out and fell off the stage. Lin Yi wins, the judge immediately announced. The entire crowd was stunned. When Yu Zhe came to his senses, he angrily stomped his feet below the stage and cursed, "Despicable and shameless. You fucking cheated." "Oh, whatever you say, idiot." Lin Yi shrugged nonchalantly. After nodding at the judge, he calmly walked off the stage. You. Yu Zhe was choked by these words and couldn't speak for a long time. He was so angry that he wanted to eat someone on the spot. This time, defeating Nan Tianba in one move was just a small appetizer. He was prepared to show off his godly power, but he didn't think that he would be toyed with by Lin Yi. He didn't even have the chance to display his true strength before being defeated. No one would be willing to accept this. Looking at his expression, Lin Yi faintly curled his lips. He was too lazy to bother with him. If they were to really compete in strength, even though Yu Zhe was an early-stage gold core expert, Lin Yi was still confident that he could directly crush his opponent. But this would waste a lot of energy. As long as he could win, it didn't matter how he won. Lin Yi didn't want to waste too much energy on Yu Zhe. It should be known that today was different from yesterday. Yesterday they only needed to fight one round, but after the second round was over, the third round would immediately begin. Whether or not they could preserve enough energy was very important. Chapter 4203. Good. Well done. This traitorous disciple deserves to be disgraced. In the crowd, Nan Tianba and the Nan Tianmen brothers felt relieved when they saw this scene. Although Lin Yi was also their enemy, his hatred towards Yu Zhe was much higher. Yesterday, he had just been humiliated by Yu Zhe, and today, he saw Yu Zhe end up in the same situation. This feeling was too great. Lin Yi ignored the cursing Yu Zhe and turned his attention to another match. One of the main characters was Huang Xiaotao, and her opponent today was Meng Tong. If it was a coincidence, it was already a coincidence that Lin Yi was matched up against Yu Zhe. He didn't expect Huang Xiaotao to be matched up against Meng Tong. This could no longer be explained as a coincidence. In addition, the host of the inner disciple competition was Su Yuanzheng. It would be strange to say that no one had secretly tampered with the drawing of lots. Huang Xiaotao and Meng Tong were both in the early stage of the Golden Core realm. Moreover, they both had a perfect breakthrough to the early stage of the Golden Core realm. Purely in terms of strength, they could be considered a pair of formidable opponents. However, Huang Xiaotao's martial arts and weapons were at a great disadvantage in the arena. Especially in a one-on-one battle, there was no one who could cover for her. It was already not easy to win against Wu Bufan in the first round yesterday. Now that she was matched up against Meng Tong, who was also a perfect Golden Core expert, her chances of winning were naturally not high. Even Lin Yi didn't expect her to win. Meng Tong's strength was far superior to Wu Bufan's. Moreover, he was an expert with 1,000 kicks and was a speed-type expert. It would be much easier for him to close the distance between him and Huang Xiaotao than Wu Bufan. More importantly, Huang Xiaotao's move of turning an arrow into a spear had already been exposed yesterday. Once this move was guarded against, it would be difficult for it to have any effect. The truth was indeed as Lin Yi expected. After persisting for the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, Huang Xiaotao was finally defeated by Meng Tong's 1,000 kicks. Fortunately, Lin Yi had already instructed her to protect herself. This time, Meng Tong had followed Su Lingchong's instructions and wanted to directly kill Huang Xiaotao, putting Lin Yi in a difficult position in the following 2-on-2 battle. He didn't expect that Huang Xiaotao would choose to admit defeat after knowing that she was no match for him, leaving him with no way to make a move. Consider yourself lucky that you escaped quickly. Meng Tong sneered as he glanced at Huang Xiaotao. He then walked down the stage and faced Su Lingchong. With a face full of disdain, he commented, "Just a so-so." "That's good. Lin Yi has found such a trashy woman to be his partner." When the time comes, he'll just be asking for trouble. Su Lingchong laughed and nodded in relief. Huang Xiaodao's performance yesterday was also a rare sight to behold. At first, he was still a little afraid of her, but now that Meng Tong had found out more about her, there was nothing to worry about. In the morning, the second round of the individual battles had all ended. The list of the top 50 was released. Lin Yi, Meng Tong, and Su Lingchong, these few new faces from the inner sect competition were still on the list. Compared to the top 100, the quality of the top 50 list was obviously a level higher. Getting into the top 100 could still depend on luck, but to get into the top 50, one must have real strength. There was no doubt about this. The top 50 was already considered the upper class among all the gold core stage disciples. There was already a world of difference between them and the people behind. Not to mention anything else, at least they could already ensure that they would get points, even if the last place only had 1 point. In the afternoon, the third round of the individual battles began. The remaining 50 people charged towards the top 25. However, there were not 25 matches in the competition. Among the top 50, there were some people who had won in the morning, but it was a narrow or even a Pyrrhic victory. Even if they were not seriously injured, they had used up all their Jin Qi and could no longer continue to fight. This kind of situation had already appeared in the second round in the morning. However, after a night of rest, most of them still had the strength to fight, so it was rare for them to directly give up. Now that it was the third round, there were at least 10 people in the top 50 who were forced to give up. They did not participate in the drawing of lots, but directly tied for the last place in the top 50, and each obtained 1 point. As for the rest of the people, they continued to draw lots to compete. Once they lost, it meant that they would stop here. If they won, it did not mean that they could go further, because after every round, there would be people who could not continue to fight due to their poor condition, and after obtaining the corresponding points, they would withdraw. Along the way, Lin Yi was more scared than hurt. Finally, after defeating a peak gold core middle stage master by luck, he stood at the peak of the top 50 and entered the final of the individual battles. Such a domineering performance really stunned everyone present. He was only an expert at the initial stage of the Golden Core realm, and he was even a new disciple of the Welcome Pavilion that had only joined the 3 great pavilions for a year. Now he had actually passed through all the tests successfully and entered into the finals of the individual battles of the inner court competition. This was an unprecedented feat, a legend that could be recorded in the annals of history. Even Zhang Liju from all those years ago didn't defy the heavens to such an extent. Of course, besides his own tyrannical strength, another important reason why Lin Yi was able to successfully laugh until the end was because there were very few core disciples above the late stage of the Golden Core stage participating in the inner sect competition, and even those at the peak of the Golden Core stage rarely appeared here. Most people whose strength had reached this level were already disciples of the various higher-ups of the sect, and some weren't even disciples in name, but official disciples, so there was no need for them to participate in the inner sect competition at all. Their cultivation resources were naturally prepared by these higher-ups themselves, and they didn't need to rely on the resources allocated by the officials of the 3 great pavilions. Naturally, there was no need for them to participate in the inner sect competition. In fact, many core disciples of the inner sect wouldn't participate in the inner sect competition in the second year after they became disciples in name of the higher-ups of the sect. Of course, there were always some exceptions. For example, the peak gold core middle stage master that Lin Yi faced earlier, or the advanced stage master that Su Lingchong faced in the first round. At the same time that Lin Yi had locked in his position in the finals, the outcome of the battle had similarly been decided on the other side. The opponent that Lin Yi was about to face was precisely his old enemy, Su Lingchong. At this moment, the sky was already dusk. Both of them stood on the arena of the finals, and the afterglow of the setting sun descended onto their bodies, causing them to actually seem to be dyed in a crimson-red killing intent, causing everyone below the arena to be unable to look directly at them. The battle hadn't even begun, yet the atmosphere was already confrontational, and the interest of everyone below the arena was aroused. No matter if it was Lin Yi or Su Lingchong, they were both influential figures at the center of the conversation. Now that they'd both advanced into the finals of the individual battles, it was extremely explosive. Chapter 4204. Hee, little Lan, who do you hope to win? Shanghai Tianhua said with a smile. WX, of course I hope that little junior brother wins, but. Shanghai Laner pursed her lips. Although she didn't want to say disheartening words, she had always been very confident in Lin Yi, but the problem was that Su Lingchong was too strong after he came back. Previously, he could even easily crush a late-stage Gold Core Realm expert, and Lin Yi had a hard time winning against a peak middle-stage Gold Core Realm expert. She just didn't like to cultivate, but under the influence of Shanghai Tianhua for so many years, she still had a good eye. She could see that unless Lin Yi had another strong trump card, it would be difficult to win against Su Lingchong head-on. But you think that Lin Yi can't win against Su Lingchong? Shanghai Tianhua smiled noncommittally, and said indifferently, watch carefully, in so many years of inner court competition, this year's is the most interesting. On the arena, Su Lingchong looked at Lin Yi opposite him, and the corner of his mouth curled up into a proud smile. He and Lin Yi were standing on this final arena, and it wasn't purely a coincidence. It could be said that he secretly found someone to arrange it, but he really didn't think that Lin Yi could actually reach this step. Otherwise, if Lin Yi didn't have enough strength, even if he secretly arranged it, there was no way he could stay until now. But this was just right. He found a late-stage Gold Core Realm expert for the first battle, announcing his strong entrance, and now he just happened to take Lin Yi's head in the final battle, to celebrate his ascension to the first throne in the inner court competition. This was Su Lingchong's original intention. It's really not easy for a pretentious newbie to stumble into the finals, but this young master isn't so exciting. There's no challenge at all, it's really boring. Su Lingchong paused for a moment, then said with a playful expression, with so many grudges between us, I should take this opportunity to properly torture you. However, this young master has decided to be merciful for once. I'll give you a word of advice. I admit defeat. Oh, since you've made such a sincere request, I'll do as you wish and admit defeat, Lin Yi nodded and said with a playful smile on his face. Huh? Did he admit defeat just like that? Everyone in the audience was in an uproar. They had thought that it would be a fierce battle, and they were mentally prepared to witness a battle of the limelight. But in the end, Lin Yi actually admitted defeat? It was like punching a cotton ball in the balls. In other words, you've already taken off your pants, and you're showing us this? Not only were the audience dumbfounded, even Su Ling, who was on the stage, had a look of disbelief on her face, unable to close her mouth for a long time. Asking Lin Yi to take the initiative to admit defeat was just a joke he used to mock others. Even he himself felt that it was impossible. Who would have thought that Lin Yi would actually obediently do as he was told? As for Shanghai Laner and Huang Xiaotao in the audience at the moment, their expressions were also stunned. Apart from being surprised, they secretly breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what, at least Lin Yi would not be injured. Not only that. Even Shanghai Tianhua, who was next to them, after hearing Lin Yi's words, could not help but look stunned, and then he laughed and shook his head. This little guy really didn't play cards according to the routine. However, it was also this unconventional way of playing cards that proved that Lin Yi was not a simple-minded boor. Not only did he have strength and potential, but he also did things calmly and knew when to advance and retreat. He did not care about temporary gains and losses, so that he could go further in the future. In fact, Lin Yi already had a hard time winning against an expert in the middle stage of the Golden Elixir realm in the last round. He had used up a lot of physical strength and vital energy, and even suffered some minor injuries. Although his injuries had been healed by the art of dragon mastery, and his vital energy had almost recovered under the replenishment of the space in the jade pendant, but the mental fatigue was not so easy to relieve. With his current state, against Su Lingchong, who was at the peak of the midday sky, it was not to say that he had no chance of winning, but at least it was very difficult, and he needed to pay a huge price to have a chance. Knowing that his state was not good, but still forcefully acting tough, that was the behavior of a brainless boor. Lin Yi had not pretended to be pretentious to this extent. One must know that even if Lin Yi directly admitted defeat, he would still be second in the individual battle, and he would still be able to get 49 points, which was only a little less than Su Lingcheng's 50 points. There was still the pair battle, and this little point could not be considered a difference at all. After all, the final ranking was based on the sum of the points of the two battles. As for whether it was first or second in the individual battle, no one would care about it. Admit defeat just like that? Don't you, this pretentious newbie, always know how to act pretentious? Why don't you dare today? After Su Lingcheng recovered from his shock, he instantly seized the opportunity to ridicule Lin Yi, and he mocked and ridiculed. Looks like you, this newcomer king, is still very sensible. I allowed you to jump around like this in the past, but it was only because I couldn't be bothered to pay attention to you. Now that I have the chance to deal with you, in the end, you became a tortoise that hid its head in its shell without saying a word. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong, you've really carried out the words very well. At the same time that Su Lingcheng seized the opportunity to ridicule Lin Yi without restraint on the arena, the people below the arena were pointing and discussing, and the gazes they shot at Lin Yi were obviously much more disdainful than before. Looks like this so-called pretentious newcomer king that came out of nowhere is nothing more than this, and he has an undeserved reputation. Lin Yi smiled indifferently, and utterly couldn't be bothered to pay attention to Su Lingcheng and the people below the arena, as if nothing had happened. He turned around and walked down the arena by himself, and the expression on his face was still carefree from the beginning until the end, as if he didn't care in the slightest. At this point, the single battles of the first segment of the inner court competition had all ended, and at the same time that a pile of topics were left behind, it could be summed up with a single word: new disciples emerge in large numbers. The first, Su Lingcheng, was an outer court disciple that was participating in the inner court competition for the first time. The second, Lin Yi, was instead simply a new disciple of the Welcome Pavilion. As for the others, Meng Tong, Yu Zhe, and the others, all of them had left a deep impression on everyone. This sort of outcome was absolutely unprecedented, and everyone could already foresee that this generation of inner court disciples would surely become a golden generation that was sufficient to be recorded in the annals of history, and besides causing people to take delight in talking about them, they would lead the future of the three great pavilions of the northern island. After the single battles ended, there would be 3 days of rest and reorganization time, and right after that would be the pair battles. Because the number of battles would be halved, the schedule of the battles at that time would be even more compact than the single battles, and it would be completed within a single day, and there wouldn't be any chance for rest and reorganization. Chapter 4205. Even if they didn't get a point in the previous single battle, as long as they did well in the next pair battle, there was still a possibility of catching up and succeeding. Because in the pair battle, both participants would get the same points. For example, in the first place, both of them would get 50 points each. In addition, the number of matches in the pair battle would be reduced by half. As long as they could win one round, they would be able to enter the top 50 and get points, which was much easier than the single battle. If they performed well in the pair battle, even if they didn't get a point in the single battle, they would still be on the list in the end, and it was very likely to be on the list. After all, those disciples who got points in the single battle might be directly eliminated in the second round without getting a point. This was not impossible. In short, before the official start of the pair battle, it was still too early to say anything now. Only after all the battles were over would the dust finally settle. After Su Yuanjing announced, all the disciples dispersed to rest and reorganize. Lin Yi returned to his cave residence with Huang Xiaotao, taking advantage of these 3 days to continue to practice the Frenzy 8 diagrams palm. After all, this was the only joint attack trump card they could rely on. Apart from this, they could only fight individually, and they would be very passive if they encountered a strong enemy. Lin Yi had a hunch that in the next pair battle, he and Huang Xiaotao were very likely to encounter Su Lingcheng and Meng Tong. With these two people's aggressive posture, if they didn't quickly practice the Frenzy 8 diagrams palm, it would be really hard to say who would be the winner. However, What made Lin Yi dumbfounded was that Shanghai Laner also insisted on coming to join in the fun. For 3 days, she had been staying with Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. It should be known that this girl was not interested in martial arts cultivation at all in the past. This time, it was rare for her to be abnormal. What exactly was she thinking? It was estimated that only Laner herself knew in her heart. 3 days passed in a flash, and all the participating disciples once again gathered in the North Island arena. The highly anticipated pair battle of the inner core competition officially began. The first person to be drawn to appear on the stage was a familiar face. It was a familiar face that he had met once before. It was Yu Daong, who had directly admitted defeat to Lin Yi in the first round of the one-on-one battle. He was at the early stage of the Gold Core realm. Although his partner was stronger, there was a limit to his strength. He was only at the peak of the early stage of the Gold Core realm. Such a combination could not be considered strong on paper. Moreover, the results of the two of them in the previous individual battles were not good. Neither of them had obtained a single point, which was seen by the audience. Naturally, he would think that this pair of people was purely cannon fodder and had no chance of winning. However, the final result was a huge shock. The two of them faced a team of 2 experts at the peak of the early golden elixir realm, and they actually defeated the strong with the weak and had the last laugh. The cooperation between these two people is quite good, especially this Yu Daong. I originally thought that he would be the other party's breakthrough point, but I didn't expect him to beat me at my own game. Instead, he became the turning point of victory and defeat. He's not a simple character, Lin Yi commented. The first time he took the initiative to admit defeat, the second time he beat Yu Daong at his own game. In the eyes of others, he might not be as dazzling as the genius newcomers, but Lin Yi secretly remembered this person's name in his heart. This person was not an ordinary person. In the future, if there were enough opportunities, it was not impossible for him to become a great talent. In the future, they would all be inner disciples of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. Perhaps there would be opportunities to interact with each other. And just as Lin Yi secretly nodded, the next pair on the stage. This caused an uproar in the audience. Even Lin Yi's eyelids couldn't help but twitch when he saw it. One of them was Yu Zhe. Although he had been the talk of the town in the solo battle, he had been defeated by Lin Yi in one move. He wouldn't have been able to cause a commotion if he was alone, but the key was that his teammate was Nan Tianba. Looking at this pair on the stage, everyone was shocked and couldn't help but roar in their hearts. What kind of world is this? These two guys had a deep hatred for each other. A few days ago, they were trampling each other to death. In the end, they became partners in the blink of an eye. Was this really going against the heavens? Amidst the exclamations, Yu Zhe and Nan Tianba had already joined forces on the stage to fight. The two of them were in the early golden elixir realm, but they had to face a team of experts at the peak of the early golden elixir realm. Normally, they had no chance of winning, but in the end, it was a completely one-sided crushing. Yu Zhe and Nan Tianba, the two of them relied on their uncoordinated teamwork to crush their opponents and enter the top 50 with their heads held high. Chapter 4206. Yes, young Master Su, I'm here to report to you. As Yu Zhe spoke, he smiled and looked at Nan Tianba and Nan Tiangate playfully. Report? Nan Tianba and Nan Tiangate were dumbfounded. Yu Zhe had never interacted with this young Master Su before. How did he suddenly become young Master Su's underling? That's right. You two might not know this, but Yu Zhe is already a member of our center. Su Lingchong explained to the two. Furthermore, he's different from you two. He's not just an outer member, he's a special assistant that the mysterious person assigned to me. Special assistant? Nan Tianba and Nan Tiangate exchanged glances with each other. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Apart from the shock, their expressions also became extremely interesting. They had just hugged a thick thigh and thought that they wouldn't have to be afraid of Yu Zhe anymore. They thought that they could borrow young Master Su's power to take care of this disgraceful scoundrel. But in the blink of an eye, they had become allies? What was even more ridiculous was that Yuja's position as a traitor was actually higher than the two of them. Since you've already joined the center, don't think about your previous grudges. There's no point in thinking about it. If anyone dares to harm one of our own, I won't forgive them. Su Lingqiang swept his gaze across the three people in front of him and said calmly. He emitted the aura of a superior and gave off an imposing aura without being angry. Yes. Yuzha agreed straightforwardly. After all, he had already gotten his revenge in the first round of the individual battles. He had already vented his anger. Furthermore, his strength and future were much stronger than Nantianba and the others, so there was nothing to worry about. Nantianba and Nantiangate looked at each other unwillingly. However, due to Su Lingqiang's tyrannical power, they could only nod in agreement. They knew that it was impossible to get revenge on Yuzha now. Even their uncle, Nantian Aurora, who was far away on the middle island, might not be able to do it. Nantian Aurora had also joined the center. Furthermore, he was a core member. However, the center couldn't allow him to harm one of their own. They could only continue to suppress their anger for the time being. Very good. We don't have any other assignments for now, so make good use of the inner court competition this time and try to obtain as much attention as possible. It's best if you can seize the opportunity to become a disciple of some higher-ups, understand? Su Lingqiang instructed. Yes, but young Master Su. Right now, I'm still lacking a partner to fight in pairs. Yuzha replied. He had just returned a few days ago, and he didn't know any Aurus Core stage experts before this, so it was normal that he didn't have a partner at the moment. That's simple. Isn't there a ready-made one in front of us? Nantianba, you'll partner with Yuzha next. If you've already agreed on a partner, kick them out. Our own people are more important. Su Lingqiang said decisively. Although Nantianba's expression was somewhat conflicted, he did not dare to disobey Su Lingqiang's orders. He could only force himself to put aside his personal grudges and temporarily choose to ally with Yuzha. Both of them were competing against each other in the inner court grand competition. That was why the scene that everyone was confused had occurred today. While everyone was puzzled, they couldn't help but feel fearful in their hearts when faced with this odd duo. After all, Yuzha's performance really couldn't be underestimated, and he absolutely couldn't let his guard down when facing them. Otherwise, he might follow in the footsteps of this pair of peak early-stage golden core cultivators. However, although the duo of Yuzha and Nantianba was fearful, to those inner court core disciples who were truly strong, they didn't need to worry too much. The newcomer duo that was about to go up next was the one that they truly needed to be on tenterhooks with, Su Lingqiang and Meng Tong. Meng Tong was a newcomer who came from the welcoming pavilion like Lin Yi. The strength that he had displayed in the individual battles was not the slightest bit weaker than Yuzha, and even surpassed him. At least in terms of ranking, he was much better than Yuzha, who was blocked out of the top 50 by Lin Yi. And Su Lingqiang's strong strength was obvious to all. From the first round of the individual battles to the last place, he crushed his opponents without any suspense. Looking at all the Aurus Core stage disciples that participated in this year's Inner Court Grand Competition, there simply wasn't a single opponent that could match up to him. Originally, everyone thought that Lin Yi, who also had a good reputation, would be a competitor. After all, he also relied on his tyrannical strength to forcefully enter the finals of the individual battles. But reality proved that this pretentious newcomer king was not even worth mentioning in front of the powerful Su Lingqiang. He didn't even have the courage to fight with Su Lingqiang. What strength was there to talk about? He was just a pretentious leader that only knew how to bully the weak and fear the strong. With a strong aura, Su Lingqiang and Meng Tong slowly walked up to the arena side by side. They were like emperors looking down at the spectators below the arena, the corners of their mouths raised into an incomparably confident smile. At this time, their opponents had not been drawn yet, but Su Lingqiang already knew who the opponent would be, because he had already informed Su Yuanzheng that in the first round of the duo battles, he would fight Lin Yi. In the individual battles before, he deliberately did not meet Lin Yi, and kept it until the finals. Su Lingqiong did it so that he could trample Lin Yi to death in the finals. Only then would it be considered complete. But he did not expect that Lin Yi would be so cunning, directly choosing to admit defeat and not giving him a chance to make a move at all. Lin Yi also obtained 49 points, which made him secretly feel that he had miscalculated. So this time, he wanted to kill Lin Yi as soon as he came up, not giving Lin Yi any chance. If Lin Yi directly admitted defeat, then there wouldn't be any points for the duo battles, and the loss wouldn't be just 1 or 2 points. As expected, the opponents that were drawn next caused another uproar. It was Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. Amidst the clamor, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao walked up to the arena and stood opposite Su Lingqiong and Meng Tong. Their faces were calm and composed. Lin Yi was naturally not afraid of Su Lingqiong and Meng Tong. As for Huang Xiaotao, she was a little nervous at this moment, but she was wearing a veil, so no one could see it. Pretentious rookie king, since you chose to directly admit defeat in the individual battles before, why don't you be a little more tactful and admit defeat together this time? Su Lingqiong took the lead and laughed coldly. In any case, the two of you were defeated by Chong and me. Now that you are together, you will only lose faster and more miserably. Since Chong is kind enough to give you a way out, you might as well be tactful and directly admit defeat, so that you won't be beaten to tears by the two of us later. That would be too embarrassing, don't you think? Meng Tong, who was at the side, echoed with a face full of contempt. Chapter 4207. Even so, they knew that relying on their own strength, it would not be easy to get back at them. Now that there was a rare opportunity to support the strong and trample on the weak, they would naturally spare no effort in ridiculing him. Faced with the boos of the audience, Huang Xiaotao, who was already somewhat nervous, could not help but clench her fists. However, Lin Yi, who was standing next to her, still maintained a calm and composed expression. Instead, he even laughed as if nothing had happened, causing the audience to be puzzled. What are you laughing at? Su Lingqiong and Meng Tong exchanged glances, then pretended to have a sudden realization. Oh, this is the legendary disguise of awkwardness, right? The skin of the pretentious newcomer king is not as thick as we thought. Ha ha ha. Ha, don't think too much about it. Especially what Chong isn't the way you two address each other. The reason why I didn't fight you in the individual battle was because I was too lazy to fight you. I didn't expect you to actually take it seriously. Lin Yi pursed his lips with a faint smile. Humph. You've really reached a certain level of shameless boasting. With your insignificant strength of the early gold core stage, you dare to say that you're going easy on me, a middle gold core stage? Do you believe these words yourself? Su Lingqiong immediately sneered. The crowd jeered as well. Su Lingqiong was at least a level higher than Lin Yi, be it in terms of strength or the performance in the single combat. It was obvious who was stronger and who was weaker. Saying that he was going easy on Lin Yi just because he couldn't beat Lin Yi was too much of a child's play. I believe it. You guys don't believe it now, but you'll believe it soon. Lin Yi shrugged his shoulders with a relaxed expression. He turned his head and exchanged a glance with Huang Xiaotao with a smile. Seeing his expression, the originally nervous Huang Xiaotao suddenly relaxed for some reason. It was as if the overbearing pressure from Su Lingqiong and Meng Tong had disappeared in an instant. At this moment, there was only Lin Yi in her eyes. Don't deceive yourself. I'll make you wake up right now. Su Lingqiong snorted coldly. He immediately pounced towards Lin Yi and made the first move. Meng Tong, who was beside him, also pounced at the same time, but his target was Huang Xiaotao. Even though it was a duo battle, with their strength, they didn't need to cooperate at all, and a one-on-one battle was already sufficient to annihilate their opponents. After all, no matter if it was Lin Yi or Huang Xiaotao, both of them had merely been defeated by them. Meng Tong attacked menacingly. The martial skill he used to deal with Huang Xiaotao was still his usual 1,000 kicks. Huang Xiaotao had been killed in the same way during the one-on-one battle. This time, it was merely a repeat. As for Su Lingchong, he had revealed his secret weapon, the Nine Heavens Poison Dragon Whip. The whip was 15 meters long, made from the top-grade dark iron, and divided into 360 sections. Each section was a sharp dagger, glowing with a poisonous green light. No matter how powerful one was, once the Ninth Heaven Poison Dragon Whip opened a wound, even if one didn't die, they would lose half of their life. Su Lingchong was an expert in the middle stage of the Gold Elixir realm. His strength was comparable to an ordinary late-stage Gold Elixir realm, and with the Ninth Heaven Poison Dragon Whip, it was like adding wings to a tiger. Therefore, in the inner disciple competition, where experts above the late stage of the Gold Elixir realm rarely showed up, he could be so invincible. That was a matter of course. In fact, after his strength had skyrocketed, Su Lingchong's confidence had become unprecedentedly strong. Not to mention killing Lin Yi in one-on-one, even if Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were to attack together, he could still easily crush them. Now that he had asked Meng Tong to cooperate with him, he already thought highly of Lin Yi. The Ninth Heaven Poison Dragon Whip made a sharp whistling sound, turning into a sky full of whip shadows, instantly covering the top of Lin Yi's head. Suddenly, there was a sound of people gasping. At this moment, Su Lingchong was unprecedentedly serious. The power of the Ninth Heaven Poison Dragon Whip was obviously a level higher than when he fought against a late-stage Gold Elixir realm expert in the first round of the one-on-one battle. Even the spectators in the arena couldn't help but feel a chill down their spine after seeing it. If they were in Lin Yi's position, they would most likely be directly killed. However, Lin Yi seemed to be prepared for this. The speed of the Ninth Heaven Poison Dragon Whip could not be said to be slow, but his speed was even faster. To be precise, his reaction was faster. Long before Su Lingchong attacked him, he had already left his original position in a flash and quickly approached Huang Xiaotao on the other side. He wanted to use the advantage of numbers to cooperate with Huang Xiaotao to get rid of Meng Tong first, creating a situation of 2 against 1, and then turn around to deal with the more troublesome Su Lingchong. Everyone present was an expert, so they instantly understood Lin Yi's intention. Su Lingchong and Meng Tong, who were in the arena, were naturally no exception. "Humph, you're dreaming, but to play such a small trick under my eyes, you're looking down on me, aren't you?" Su Lingchong responded with a sneer. Following his voice, the Ninth Heaven Poison Dragon Whip, which had already transformed into thousands of times, suddenly became even more overwhelming. It chased after Lin Yi's figure and shrouded it all the way. This posture was actually prepared to take advantage of the situation to capture both Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao in one fell swoop. The situation on the arena became extremely dangerous once again. At this moment, both Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were like prey in the mouth of a poisonous dragon. They could be swallowed at any time, and not even their bones would be left. At the same time, in order to avoid being accidentally injured by the Ninth Heaven Poison Dragon Whip, Meng Tong, who was originally attacking Huang Xiaotao, could only take the initiative to take a step back. Although he was Su Lingchong's partner, the attack of the Ninth Heaven Poison Dragon Whip was not to be trifled with. Once he was caught in it, even Su Lingchong would not be able to save him. The outcome has been decided. Everyone in the arena made their judgment. Even the referee, a nascent soul expert, felt that there was no suspense. Unlike the audience, he did not feel that Lin Yi was weak at all. Instead, he rather admired the performance of Lin Yi, the newcomer king. However, even so, he did not think that Lin Yi would be able to survive under such a powerful attack. In the face of absolute strength, no matter how good one's talent, potential, or intelligence, it was all just fleeting clouds. It would not change the outcome in the slightest. Grandpa quickly saved junior brother and senior sister Xiaotao. Shanghai Laner, who was on the grandstand, was so anxious that her tears were about to fall. She hurriedly pulled Shanghai Tianhua's arm and said. Shanghai Tianhua frowned. Even he felt that the situation was not too good. However, he was not in a hurry to act. He turned his head and comforted her, "Little Lan, don't be anxious. Lin Yi should not be defeated so easily. Let's wait a little longer. Chapter 4208. Of course, the reason why Shanghai Tianhua dared to say something like that to wait wasn't purely because he believed in Lin Yi's strength. Even if Lin Yi really didn't have any strength to resist, with his strength, wanting to save Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao was only a matter of a thought, and there wouldn't be any mishaps. However, in the next moment, Shanghai Tianhua was suddenly slightly shocked, as the situation on the stage suddenly changed. Bang! Under the ninth heaven venom whip's shadow that covered the sky and covered the earth, two balls of crimson-red flames suddenly erupted. The ninth heaven venom whip that Su Lingchong was so proud of was actually broken on the spot, and its power was so shocking that it was simply shocking. Amidst the exclamations of surprise, the crowd of Golden Core stage experts below the stage finally recognized the two balls of crimson-red flames clearly. Shockingly, it was actually two fire palm shadows, one small and one large, and the shape of the 8 trigrams faintly appeared in the middle. They split into two directions and whizzed out respectively, the small one striking towards Meng Tong, and the large one going straight for Su Lingchong. At this moment, Su Lingchong and Meng Tong were still immersed in a state of disbelief and astonishment. Before the two of them could react, they heard two bangs accompanied by the muffled sounds of bones breaking. After that, they were like two kites with their strings cut as they were directly thrown off the ring, and they didn't even have the slightest room to retaliate. The frenzy 8 trigrams palm strike that was created at the last minute actually had such a formidable might. Instantly, the sound of people drawing in cold breaths rose and fell, and everyone looked at each other in dismay, unable to say a word for a long time. Compared to sending the two of them flying with a single move, what was even more shocking was the injuries on their bodies at this moment. Meng Tong was fine, because the main attacker was Huang Xiaotao. Although it was the same frenzy 8 trigrams palm strike that came from the same source, its might was obviously much weaker, so although Meng Tong was in a sorry state, his injuries weren't too heavy. The one who was truly miserable was Su Lingchong. The frenzy 8 trigrams palm strike that struck his body came from Lin Yi, and in terms of might, it was at least at the peak of the late stage of the foundation establishment stage. Moreover, it struck his chest so unexpectedly, and this young Master Su, who was insufferably arrogant after his powerful return, directly fell to the ground at this moment with bulging eyes, and his breathing was more than it was exhaled. Obviously, he wasn't going to make it. Charge! Meng Tong instantly roared with grief and indignation when he saw this, and he couldn't care about his own injuries as he frantically rushed to the side of Su Lingchong who was on the verge of death. At the same time, a figure suddenly followed closely. It was the person in charge of the inner court competition this time, Su Yuanzheng. He's still on his last breath. Quick, bring him for treatment. Su Yuanzheng anxiously instructed after checking Su Lingchong's condition. As anxious as he was the host of the inner disciple competition. No matter what, he could not be absent. Thus, he could only allow Meng Tong to bring him away for the time being. Meng Tong hurriedly nodded. He couldn't be bothered to look at Lin Yi who was on the stage anymore. Enduring the pain, he picked up Su Lingchong who was on the ground and walked out. The 3 major pavilions had specialized infirmaries where doctors gathered. Moreover, everyone would try their best to save Su Lingchong on account of Su Yuanzheng. Although Su Lingchong's condition was very weak at the moment, he might still have a chance of survival. However, just as he carried Su Lingchong out of the north arena and arrived at a secluded place, the mysterious man in black suddenly appeared in front of him. After a gust of wind blew past, the mysterious man in black, together with Meng Tong and Su Lingchong, disappeared without a trace. No one knew where they went. At this moment, on the arena, after being stunned for a long time, the referee finally announced the victory of Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. The way everyone looked at Lin Yi was completely different from before. This Lin Yi is really fucking amazing. Someone's mouth twitched as he discussed. Nonsense, what kind of eyesight do you have? You only realized it now? I already knew that this newcomer king is amazing. Previously in the single battle finals, he deliberately admitted defeat. I could see it with one look. That's right, he probably doesn't want to fight one-on-one with Su Lingqiong at all. He's planning to save it for the double battle. It'll save him a lot of time and effort. That seems to be the case. Wait a minute. Both of you didn't say this before. Didn't you say that Lin Yi couldn't possibly be a match for Su Lingqiong? Why did it change now? Grandpa, look at junior brother and senior sister Xiao Tao, aren't they amazing? Their combined palm strike is an ultimate move that I practiced with them a few days ago. The worry on Shanghai Laner's face had long disappeared. While she was happy for Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, she boasted to Shanghai Tianhua. Hee, little Lon, you just went over to watch them practice, right? Shanghai Tianhua teased her with a smile. That's still at the same time. There's also my credit. Shanghai Laner stuck out her tongue cutely. Shanghai Tianhua immediately laughed and patted Shanghai Laner's head lightly. The gaze that he looked at Lin Yi in the distance was obviously more appreciative than before. To be honest, even he didn't expect that Lin Yi's counterattack would be so swift and fierce. He was obviously only at the early stage of the Gold Core realm, but he was able to kill the insufferably arrogant Su Lingqiong in one move. Such a performance was really shocking. If Su Lingqiong was just an ordinary middle-stage Gold Core realm expert, then it would be fine. The problem was that he was also an expert of the Gold Core realm who had a perfect breakthrough. They were both experts of the Gold Core realm. Lin Yi's sudden counterattack really made everyone understand one thing. Even among geniuses, there were different levels. Su Lingqiong and Meng Tong were originally the pair with the highest chance of winning the double battle. In the end, they were killed by Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao in one move. After that, the double battle simply became the stage for the two of them. No matter what kind of opponent they faced, from the beginning to the end, they were killed in one move. There was no change to speak of. From the beginning to the end, it was the frenzied 8 trigrams palm strike. At the final stage, everyone present could even figure out their moves. However, even so, it didn't change the situation at all. It was just the frenzied 8 trigrams palm strike. Even if they could see the moves clearly, so what? At the beginning, there was no solution, and at the end, there was still no solution. This was the gap of absolute strength. As they killed in one move, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao demonstrated to everyone what it meant to be an invincible existence of the Gold Core realm. In several rounds, when faced with such an overbearing pair, their opponents couldn't even muster up the slightest bit of fighting spirit. As soon as they came up, they hurriedly opened their mouths to admit defeat. In any case, the invincibility of the Lin Yi pair was obvious to all. Even if they admitted defeat, it wouldn't be shameful. Moreover, they could avoid getting injured, so there was no need to stubbornly persist. It was worth mentioning that this included the Yu Zhe and Nan Tianba duo. Even in their dreams, they wanted to trample Lin Yi under their feet. However, the situation was stronger than they were. Even Su Lingqiong was almost beaten to death. If they didn't have eyes and joined in, wouldn't that be courting death? In the end, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao locked onto the throne of first place in the double battle without any suspense. Compared to Su Lingqiong's first place in the single battle, they were much more impressive. R1152 Chapter 4209 There was no doubt as to who was stronger between Lin Yi and Su Lingqiong. The latter was almost beaten to a dead man, and he might even be a corpse now. Was there any suspense in the outcome? With the end of the double battle, the inner court competition was over. The points of the single battle and the double battle were tallied. Lin Yi had 99 points, and he deserved to be ranked first. The title of the newcomer king of Welcome Pavilion would change from now on, and he would become the newcomer king of the inner court. As for Huang Xiaotao, although she did not get a single point in the single battle, she got 50 points in the double battle, which was enough to guarantee her entry into the top 50, and she was ranked 32nd. It was worth mentioning that although Su Lingqiong was defeated in one move in the double battle, he was ranked first in the single battle, so he also got 50 points, and he was tied with Huang Xiaotao for the 32nd place. As for Meng Tong, Yu Zhe, and Nan Tianba, their points were much lower than these three, but in the end, they still managed to squeeze into the top 50, just that they were ranked at the bottom. The inner court competition had come to an end, but the Golden Core stage disciples that had gathered at the North Island Arena didn't disperse. On the contrary, they became even more nervous and agitated at this moment. According to the practice of previous years, the meaning of the inner court competition, in addition to the allocation of cultivation resources for the next year, had another more important meaning, which was for the leaders of the three pavilions to choose disciples. At this time, the elders of the Elders Guild, including the leaders of the three pavilions, had all appeared one by one. They would consider the performance of the disciples of the Gold Core stage in the inner court competition, measure their qualifications and potential, and then decide who to accept as a disciple. Looking at all the leaders of the three pavilions who were present, in terms of status and strength, Shanghai Tianhua was ranked first, so the selection of disciples naturally had to start with him. Of course, Shanghai Tianhua rarely accepted disciples, and there were very few people who could catch his eye. Normally, it would take decades or even hundreds of years. He might not accept one of them, but out of respect, regardless of whether he accepted or not, he had to make the first request. The audience held their breath, although they all knew that they could not be chosen by Shanghai Tianhua. But when Shanghai Tianhua's imposing gaze swept over them, their hearts still couldn't help but skip a beat. Unfortunately, their luck was destined to fail. Shanghai Tianhua slowly swept his gaze around and finally said 4 words, Lin Yi. Not bad. The whole audience burst into an uproar. Not only were they shocked that Shanghai Tianhua would actually choose someone, but they were even more shocked that he was going to cross the line to choose someone. Each of the higher-ups belonged to one of the 3 great pavilions. Normally, they could only choose people from their own pavilions and could not choose people from other pavilions, because that was something that could easily be taboo. Although Lin Yi was a newcomer in the welcoming pavilion, he had already been assigned to Blue Cloud Pavilion. This was something that everyone could see. However, Shanghai Tianhua was the Soaring Sky Pavilion's pavilion master. This was clearly against the rules. However, after Shanghai Tianhua finished speaking, the Golden Core stage disciples below were in an uproar. However, the higher-ups were still sitting upright and still. He didn't look surprised at all, nor did he have any intention of standing out to nitpick. With the current strength of Soaring Sky Pavilion, it was not surprising that they broke the convention. Since Shanghai Tianhua had personally spoken, it didn't matter which pavilion Lin Yi was originally a disciple of. Thinking back to the beginning, with Huang Xiaodao's personal experience, since Soaring Sky Pavilion could demote their disciples to Blue Cloud Pavilion, then naturally they could also accept disciples from Blue Cloud Pavilion. Especially since this was personally spoken by Shanghai Tianhua, no one would have any objections. Under the stage, everyone's eyes focused on Lin Yi were all blazing and envious. Only Lin Yi himself was still indifferent. Feeling the gaze of Shanghai Tianhua above his head, Lin Yi raised his head and looked at him. He didn't speak, but the corner of his mouth slightly curved. No one knew what he was thinking at the moment. And Shanghai Tianhua, who was in the center of the audience, suddenly smiled after saying these 4 words. He actually got up and left, leaving a bunch of people in the audience puzzled. What did this mean? After saying that Lin Yi was not bad, he directly left. Did this mean that he wanted to accept Lin Yi as a disciple, or just praise him? Grandpa, are you going to accept him or not? Shanghai Laner was also anxious, so she quickly caught up and asked. Lon, if Grandpa takes Lin Yi in, then he'll be older than you in terms of seniority. Do you agree? Shanghai Tianhua smiled playfully as he walked. This. Shanghai Laner suddenly choked. She didn't want to have a seniority with Lin Yi for no reason. This was not only embarrassing on the surface, but it would also cause trouble in some matters. So of course I won't accept him. Shanghai Tianhua said with a smile. Then, Grandpa, why did you mention little junior brother's name? Shanghai Laner asked with a puzzled look. Lin Yi is not a person in a pond. Unless he is a real master, otherwise, letting anyone be his master will only restrict his growth. The disadvantages are greater than the advantages. It is better to let him develop on his own. Shanghai Tianhua said seriously, I don't want to restrict him. The reason why I said this just now is to prevent others from accepting Lin Yi as a disciple. With Shanghai Tianhua's realm and vision, no matter who it was, he could almost see the potential and future of almost anyone at a glance. However, not only could he not see through Lin Yi, but he also could not see through him. If he were to use a saying, Shanghai Tianhua only knew that Lin Yi's future was the sea of stars. Any so-called teaching, in the end, would only become his restraint. If he were to find a case, it would be Ram Jia who appeared out of nowhere in the past before Lin Yi. Shanghai Tianhua used the same strategy and finally created the unfathomable law enforcement hall master. Therefore, although he was called out by Shanghai Tianhua in public, and it was after the inner disciple competition, such a clear-cut occasion, Lin Yi could not be regarded as his disciple completely. He could only be regarded as half a disciple. After Shanghai Tianhua left, the audience was stunned and silent for a moment. Then they continued to select people, from the mysterious pavilion master, the blue cloud pavilion master, to the elders guild, according to the tacit status and strength ranking, one by one. In the end, the disciples who performed outstandingly in this inner disciple competition were accepted as registered disciples by the big shots. From then on, they rose to the sky in a single bound. However, it was worth mentioning that from the beginning to the end, all the big shots seemed to have forgotten Huang Xiaotao, and no one mentioned her. In terms of performance, Huang Xiaotao was remarkable in this inner disciple competition. In addition to Lin Yi and Su Lingchong, who were in the limelight, she left the deepest impression on everyone. In terms of potential, she was also a master of the gold core stage who had a perfect breakthrough. Her future was destined to be limitless. Chapter 42:10. Being able to reach their current level, the big bosses naturally weren't blind people. Normally speaking, after Lin Yi, there would have been big bosses who would have snatched this seedling with potential long ago, and it wouldn't have been like today, where no one was interested in him. However, Lin Yi could figure out the reason. Huang Xiaotao was his partner, and she often sat with Shanghai Laner these days. They were like sisters, so she was naturally labeled as Shanghai Tianhua. No matter how much the big shots coveted her, they would not take the risk to snatch Shanghai Tianhua's people. At the end, all the big shots had taken turns. The remaining disciples in the gold core stage who had not been selected knew that there was no hope, so they had no choice but to leave. Lin Yi was also ready to return to the welcome pavilion, but suddenly a person behind him greeted him with a smile. Looking back, Lin Yi could not help but feel his eyelids twitch. The person behind him was dressed like a Taoist priest and had a sage-like demeanor. It was Yu Zhenyang, the pavilion master of Blue Cloud Pavilion. Greetings, pavilion master. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, who was next to him, cupped their hands and saluted at the same time. After all, both of them were now inner disciples of Blue Cloud Pavilion. No need to be so polite. Yu Zhenyang smiled and waved his hand, but he was unexpectedly approachable. He said with a smile, Lin Yi, I'm very happy that a genius like you can appear in Blue Cloud Pavilion, and so is Xiaotao. The future of the 3 pavilions in the North Island will fall on you in the future. There's a long way to go. Pavilion Master, you flatter me. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, who was a little reserved, looked at each other and quickly said modestly. The other disciples who passed by all looked envious. As the pavilion master of Blue Cloud Pavilion, Yu Zhenyang was a top big shot at the same level as Shanghai Tianhua. Even inner disciples found it extremely difficult to see him. When had they ever seen this big shot take the initiative to greet others? This Lin Yi was simply favored by God, which made people envious. Although I have to be neither arrogant nor rash. But I'm telling the truth, you two don't have to be so modest. Yu Zhenyang smiled nonchalantly, and then took the initiative to say, Lin Yi, since Pavilion Master Shengguan mentioned your name just now, do you want to transfer you to Soaring Sky Pavilion? That way, it will be more justifiable in the future. Also, with me around, the procedures are very simple. Thank you for your understanding, Pavilion Master. However, I feel that staying in Blue Cloud Pavilion is fine. There's no need to go through so much trouble, Lin Yi rejected with a smile. He had more or less figured out what Shengguan Tianhua meant. Since he was only half a disciple, it did not matter much whether he went to the Soaring Sky Pavilion or not. Continuing to stay in the Blue Cloud Pavilion was not a bad idea. On the contrary, if he went to the Soaring Sky Pavilion, he might see Su Lingchong, Meng Tong, Yu Zhe, and the rest of the assholes all day long. Not to mention the threat, the key point was that he would be annoyed whenever he saw them. These things would affect his mood, and that would be as depressing as he could be. Yu Zhenyang heard this and was overjoyed. Anyone could see that Lin Yi had a bright future ahead of him. Although he was singled out by Shengguan Tianhua, he was still a genius. If he, as the Pavilion Master of Blue Cloud Pavilion, said that he didn't have any thoughts about being taken away from Soaring Sky Pavilion for no reason was a lie. If Lin Yi really wanted to go to Soaring Sky Pavilion, naturally, he wouldn't be able to stop him. But since Lin Yi was willing to stay, it couldn't be any better. Blue Cloud Pavilion was already weak to a certain extent, and it wanted to rise again. Unless a legendary figure like Zhang Liju appeared. And from the looks of it, Lin Yi was no weaker than Zhang Liju from back then. He was no weaker than Zhang Liju from back then. Since you've made up your mind, I won't try to persuade you anymore. After all, Blue Cloud Pavilion is your home, and since we're on the same side, there's no need to be so formal. Tell me, is there anything you need my help with? Yu Zhenyang said. With his status and identity, anything he wanted to do in the Clear Cloud Pavilion could be accomplished with a single word. This kind of favor that didn't cost much, he would naturally do it if he could. To be able to let Lin Yi owe him a favor, he couldn't ask for more. After all, in all these years, Lin Yi was the third person after Gong Yangjie to be praised by Shengguan Tianhua in all these years of inner sect competitions. Shanghai Tianhua rarely praised someone in public, especially in a formal occasion like the inner disciple competition. There were only 3 times in history. The first time was Zhang Liju, the second was Ram Jie, and the third was now Lin Yi. Zhang Liju, on the other hand, was a legendary being who stood at the peak of Sky Class Island. Gong Yangjie, on the other hand, was young, but unfathomable as well. Not only was he the head of the law enforcement hall, but his reputation and position in the 3 pavilions was already above most of the elders. Perhaps in a few years, he would be able to challenge the 3 pavilion masters. With such a living example, if Yu Zhenyang still didn't recognize Lin Yi's potential, then he wouldn't be able to sit in his current position. Since the pavilion master has said so, then it would be impolite of me to refuse. Lin Yi didn't reject it excessively. He knew that making a request at a time like this not only wouldn't make people hate him, but it would also make their relationship closer. Since he had made up his mind to stay in Blue Cloud Pavilion in the future, it was necessary for him to have a good relationship with Yu Zhenyang. Go ahead, just tell me if you have any requests. Yu Zhenyang smiled as expected. I hope to stay in Blue Cloud Pavilion in the future. I hope that the pavilion master can arrange a slightly bigger place for me, the kind that can accommodate a few more people. Lin Yi thought about it and said. With your strength and potential, Lin Yi, this is a matter of course. Even if you didn't mention it, the pavilion master wouldn't mistreat a talent like you. Yu Zhenyang smiled and looked at Huang Xiaotao playfully. His meaning was obvious. Huang Xiaotao immediately lowered her head shyly. Even through the veil, the bystanders could feel her blush at this moment. Lin Yi smiled and didn't explain much. He told Yu Zhenyang to arrange a bigger place for them to live. Naturally, Huang Xiaotao would have to move in with them. However, he didn't want to be with Huang Xiaotao for the rest of his life. In Lin Yi's expectation, not only would Huang Xiaotao move in, but the tattered king would also be brought over. Although the tattered king had yet to succeed in forging, he had helped Lin Yi for so long and was considered one of them. Moreover, he happened to be a disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion. It was just that he didn't have a good time before. Other than that, there would naturally be Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and the others. If they gathered together, they could take care of each other. It would be more convenient for Lin Yi to help them improve their strength. Apart from this, do you have any other requests? Yu Zhenyang continued to ask. No, thank you for your concern, Pavilion Master. Lin Yi replied. After all, it was the first time they met. Even if the request was to improve their relationship, it must be done in moderation. Otherwise, it would be insatiable and counterproductive. R466. Chapter 42:11. Yu Zhenyang looked deeply at Lin Yi and seemed to be a little surprised. However, after waiting for a moment and seeing that Lin Yi had no intention of changing his mind, he nodded and said, since that's the case, I'll get someone to prepare a residence first. We'll talk about the rest later. Thank you for your trouble, Pavilion Master. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao cupped their hands and watched Yu Zhenyang leave. Not long after, the two also went their separate ways. Huang Xiaotao returned to the Blue Cloud Pavilion, and Lin Yi returned to the Welcoming Pavilion. Although Yu Zhenyang, the Pavilion Master of the Blue Cloud Pavilion, personally came forward and the matter of residence could be settled with a few words, after all, it had to be arranged temporarily. So at least for tonight, Lin Yi still had to stay in the Welcoming Pavilion. Today, the 1-year period of the Welcoming Pavilion's newcomers had passed. The newcomers who were supposed to go to the 3 pavilions went to the 3 pavilions, those who were supposed to be stewards went to stewards, and those who were supposed to go to the mining area went to the mining area. Everyone had their own residence, and the newcomers' cave residences that were specially prepared for them were all empty. Only Lin Yi was an exception. Among all the newcomers' cave residences, only his cave residence was still occupied. But even so, not to mention the current steward of the Blue Cloud Pavilion, Hu Yunfeng, even the Welcoming Pavilion Master, Hu Yunfeng, didn't dare to disrespect Lin Yi. When Lin Yi returned to the Welcoming Pavilion, he saw from afar that there was a person guarding the entrance of his cave residence. It was Hu Yunfeng. Junior Lin Yi, congratulations. After today, you'll have a bright future ahead of you. To have a genius disciple like you is a rare honor for my Welcome Pavilion. Hu Yunfeng changed her usual attitude and walked up to Lin Yi as soon as she saw him, greeting him with a smile. Although he didn't like Lin Yi because of his position in the past, after learning of Lin Yi's performance in the Inner Disciple Tournament, especially after being praised by Shangguan Tianhua in public, he could only be said to be extremely stupid if he didn't quickly change his attitude. No matter what, he, Hu Yunfeng, could be considered an official. He definitely wouldn't be so blind. Pavilion Master Hu, you flatter me. Lin Yi was a little surprised, but then he smiled and said, Pavilion Master Hu, did you come to find me today to discuss the matter of the cave residence? Don't worry, I'll move out right away. I won't stay here forever. Junior brother Lin Yi, what are you saying? You're treating me like an outsider. Hu Yunfeng pretended to be angry and said, the Welcoming Pavilion is your first home on the Heaven Stage Island, and it's also your home forever. As long as you're willing to stay here, as long as I'm in the Welcoming Pavilion, I'll keep this cave for you forever. No one else is allowed to touch it. Hee, that won't be necessary. I've already talked to Pavilion Master Yu. The Blue Cloud Pavilion will probably arrange a new residence tomorrow. I won't trouble Pavilion Master Hu. Lin Yi smiled faintly and shook his head. Oh. Since Pavilion Master Yu is personally making an appearance, then he definitely won't treat junior brother Lin Yi unfairly. I'm relieved. Hu Yunfeng said with a smile, but he was shocked inwardly. Lin Yi had really become a phoenix after flying up the tree. Not only was he favored by Shangguan Tianhua, the Soaring Pavilion's Pavilion Master, but even Yu Zhenyang, the Blue Cloud Pavilion's Pavilion Master, was so concerned about him. With the support of these two top-notch bosses, Lin Yi could really do whatever he wanted in the three pavilions in the future. One had to know that although Hu Yunfeng was also called Pavilion Master, it was only a small welcoming pavilion. In terms of status and power, it was much worse than any of the other departments, not to mention top-notch bosses like Shengguan Tianhua and Yu Zhenyang. They were not on the same level at all. After asking about his well-being for a while, Hu Yunfeng politely said goodbye to Lin Yi. He deliberately came here today, not daring to have extravagant hopes of being able to get closer to Lin Yi. He only hoped that Lin Yi would not care about the past deliberately targeting him. That would already be a blessing. Looking at Hu Yunfeng's back as he left, Lin Yi shook his head with a smile. Previously, Hu Yunfeng was targeting him in every possible way. Now, because of Shengguan Tianhua's words, his attitude immediately changed 180 degrees. It really made people speechless. Not long after Hu Yunfeng left, several people came to the entrance of Lin Yi's cave, but this time, they were all on the same side. It was the bitter senior brother, Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and Li Jingming. Junior brother Lin, we've heard about today's matter. It's really worth celebrating. We should toast. The bitter senior brother said happily. He now sincerely felt that Lin Yi was his destined benefactor. If it wasn't for Lin Yi, he would still be bullied by others. Perhaps he wouldn't even be able to keep his position as the second senior brother of the new manager. How could he live so comfortably today? This was all thanks to Lin Yi. Yes, yes. Boss, from now on, you will have a meteoric rise. We must celebrate. Let's not go home until we're drunk today. Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and Li Jingming said in unison. The first two were underlings that Lin Yi had brought up. The latter was an insider who did his best for Lin Yi. They were Lin Yi's most trusted people. Now that Lin Yi had a meteoric rise, of course, they would share the glory with him. For tonight's celebration, the three of them spent a lot of effort to get several jars of top-quality spirit wine. Well, let's drink to our heart's content tonight. We won't go home until we're drunk. Lin Yi said with a smile. With his current strength, no matter how good the spirit wine was, he wouldn't get drunk even after 1,000 cups. However, Xiao Ran and the others were not necessarily so. They immediately laughed, filled their cups together, and drank. During the year in the welcoming pavilion, they had experienced ups and downs together and cultivated a deep tacit understanding. Everything was understood without words. Junior brother Lin, let me toast you again. In the future, I will rely on you to protect me. The bitter senior brother raised his cup again. You're wrong, senior brother Ku. No matter what happens after I'm done with you, you'll always be my senior brother. We'll work together, there's no such thing as a cover. You should punish yourself with a cup first. Lin Yi smiled, speechless. Boss is right. Senior brother Ku needs to punish himself with a cup first. Xiao Hongkai took the lead to cheer. Okay, I accept the punishment. I accept the punishment. The bitter senior brother had to reply with a bitter smile. He raised his head and drank the cup. Lin Yi and the others clapped and cheered. However, although they said so, the bitter senior brother's words really reminded Lin Yi that everyone present was reliable. In the future, he really had to spend more time on them. Their current strength was not bad in the welcoming pavilion, but if they went outside, it was far from enough. They celebrated for a whole night. It was not until dawn of the next day that someone came to knock on the door. It finally ended. The person who came to knock on the door was an inner disciple in charge of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. According to the instructions of the pavilion master, Yu Zhenyang, he was responsible for the accommodation of Lin Yi. When the bitter senior brother saw this person, he suddenly sighed with emotion. Although this person was not an influential figure like the inner disciple, he was at least an inner disciple with a lot of power. In the eyes of others, he was also a superior existence. Now, he was specially running errands for Lin Yi. If it was before, it would be unimaginable. R1152. No matter where they went, there was dense spiritual energy, and it was an eye-opener for Ku Bai Shixiang and the others. After the few of them strolled around excitedly, Senior Marshal Brother Ku Bai didn't stay for long because he still had some matters to take care of in the welcoming pavilion. Xiao Ran and the others also dispersed. Lin Yi sent them out of the door, and just when he was about to turn around, he suddenly heard a familiar voice behind him. What do you think? Are you satisfied with mansion number 1? Yu Zhenyang appeared behind him and asked with a smile. Thank you, Pavilion Master. I'm very satisfied. Lin Yi nodded with a smile, but his heart skipped a beat. Although this Yu Zhenyang was the weakest Clear Cloud Pavilion's pavilion lord, his strength was still unfathomable. Yu Zhenyang had appeared behind him without Lin Yi noticing in the slightest. As expected of an expert. That's good. Other than that, Lin Yi, is there anything else you need my help with? Yu Zhenyang asked with a meaningful look in his eyes. Lin Yi was speechless when he heard that. No matter what, the person in front of him was the pavilion master of Blue Cloud Pavilion, a top-notch big shot on the same level as Shanghai Tianhua. Wasn't it a little too polite to a newcomer in the inner disciple? He had asked the same question yesterday, and he was asking it again today. Could it be that even if he was fine, he still had to come up with something to ask for his help? Nothing else. Lin Yi was somewhat baffled as he replied. Yu Zhenyang couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Seeing that Lin Yi didn't seem to have any intention to continue asking, he coughed and took the initiative to mention, Lin Yi, you were in the Welcome Pavilion before, so you should be very familiar with the matters of the Welcome Pavilion. Ever since Lu Bianren stepped down, the position of the third pavilion master has been vacant for a long time. What do you think about this position? The reason why Yu Zhenyang mentioned this matter was obviously because Shanghai Tianhua had hinted to him. He thought that Lin Yi would remember this matter, so he kept reminding him. He didn't expect that Lin Yi didn't have any intention in this regard, so he had no choice but to take the initiative to mention it. What he didn't know was that the matter of the third pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion was just a bet between Shanghai Tianhua and Shangguan Laner. Lin Yi didn't know about it at all, so he naturally wouldn't think about it in this regard. Third pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion? Lin Yi was suddenly surprised when he heard this, and he said strangely, you want me to go? Aren't I already an inner sect core disciple? Although he had just joined the inner sect, Lin Yi still had some understanding of this aspect. The inner sect core disciples were the future main force of the 3 pavilions, so their main task was to cultivate in seclusion or go out to train and improve their strength. In general, they would rarely do other miscellaneous things. Although the position of the third pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion was quite a high position, it was complicated. Under normal circumstances, it was a position reserved for outer sect disciples. Of course, only the most outstanding outer sect disciples had the opportunity, and ordinary people couldn't hope for it. This actually won't delay you, you just have to take up the position for a while. You can usually live here, and if you have something to do, you can go over. Yu Zhenyang said with a smile. This. Lin Yi thought about it and finally refused. I appreciate the pavilion master's kindness, but I still don't want to take up this position. I want to concentrate on my cultivation now, and I don't want to be disturbed too much. Lin Yi, I am very pleased that you can be so ambitious, but the position of the third pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion can't be empty for too long. Otherwise, others will gossip about it, and that won't be good. Yu Zhenyang thoughtfully rubbed his chin, and in his heart, he looked at Lin Yi even more highly. The third pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion was a position that everyone knew was gilded. Even many inner sect core disciples, and even some inner sect stewards, were envious of this position, but Lin Yi was able to remain unmoved. This kind of calmness and indifference was really rare. However, what made Yu Zhenyang feel a little awkward was that this was a greeting from Shanghai Tianhua. If he didn't give the position of the third pavilion master to Lin Yi, wouldn't he be breaking his promise to Shanghai Tianhua? Pavilion master, although I don't want to take up the position myself, I have a suitable candidate for you to consider. Of course, it's just a suggestion. Lin Yi saw Yu Zhenyang's dilemma, and immediately said, "Okay, tell me about it." Yu Zhenyang nodded. If it was any other time, even if he wanted to discuss a candidate with someone, it would definitely not be a newcomer like Lin Yi. However, today's situation was special. To a certain extent, the position of the third pavilion master originally belonged to Lin Yi, so he naturally had the right to make suggestions. R1152. Chapter 42:13. I think that Ku Zhongla Le Ku's experience is more than enough for him to be the third master of the welcoming pavilion. Lin Yi said after some consideration. Bitter joy? Yu Zhenyang frowned and thought for a moment before he remembered such a person. In fact, if he hadn't studied Lin Yi's background before, he wouldn't have known about bitter joy at all. After all, the difference in status between them was too great. Normally, they wouldn't have any interaction at all. That's right. He is the current senior brother who is in charge of the newcomers. He has a lot of experience in the welcome pavilion and has always taken good care of me. I hope Pavilion Master can consider it, Lin Yi said on behalf of Bitter Joy. The words at the beginning were all foreshadowing. The last sentence was the main point. The implication was that this was a favor. Bitter Joy is indeed not bad, but his strength seems to be a little lacking, right? Yu Zhenyang said hesitantly. As the Clear Cloud Pavilion's pavilion lord, although he had the authority to make the final decision on this matter, if he couldn't even fulfill the most basic conditions, then it would attract criticism from others. He's going to be a foundation establishment full circle very soon, and he's about to break through to this point. I know this, Lin Yi said confidently. In fact, Bitter Joy's current strength was only in the middle stage of the foundation building realm. Moreover, his talent was only considered average. Under normal circumstances, it would take at least a decade or even a few decades for him to break through to the foundation building great perfection. However, it was not a problem for Lin Yi to say so. After all, he could improve people's strength. If he really needed it, it would only take a few hours. Then there's no problem. Yu Zhenyang immediately nodded and said, however, I still have to inform Pavilion Master Shengguan about this. After all, this appointment has to go through the Elders Guild. It's not something that I can decide alone. All right, thank you, Pavilion Master. Lin Yi said with a smile. He also guessed that this was Shengguan Tianhua's intention. He believed that when the time came, Shengguan Tianhua would definitely not stop him when he heard that it was his suggestion. Yes, but if that's the case, you'll have to pick another person to fill the position of the new senior brother steward. Yu Zhenyang changed the topic. Normally, he would not pay attention to such a small position. Now that he said that, he was implying that the decision would be handed over to Lin Yi. He might as well be a good person to the end. I think Xiao Ran is not bad. Why don't we choose him? Lin Yi said. The reason why he didn't mention Xiao Hongkai and Li Jingming was that Xiao Hongkai was impulsive and wasn't suitable for this position. Li Jingming, on the other hand, wanted to keep a low profile because of his enemies, which was even more inappropriate. All right, Xiao Ran it will be then. It's settled then. Yu Zhenyang nodded. He had no idea who Xiao Ran was. All he knew was that he was Lin Yi's man. Thank you for your help, Pavilion Master, Lin Yi said gratefully. Other than that, is there anything else? Yu Zhenyang asked again. Lin Yi was speechless for a while. He thought to himself that this Pavilion Master was really enthusiastic towards him. Suddenly, he thought of Lu Bianren and said, Pavilion Master, do you know where senior brother Lu Bianren went? He took good care of me before, but I haven't seen him for a long time. Lu Bianren? Yu Zhenyang was stunned. He had an impression of this disciple. He said uncertainly, He should be out on a mission. I didn't pay much attention to him. I'll ask for you later and get someone to tell you. All right, then I'll have to trouble Pavilion Master. I'm very grateful. Lin Yi nodded. Is there anything else? Yu Zhenyang continued to ask. No. Lin Yi was completely embarrassed. No matter what, this was a top boss of the three great pavilions. It was really unexpected that he was so attentive to a newcomer in the inner sect. Alright, if there's anything in the future, you can look for me directly. I still have something to do today, so I won't stay here for long. Yu Zhenyang turned and left. Have a safe trip, Pavilion Master. Lin Yi bowed. He had to say that this time, he really enjoyed the feeling of superiority. The other party was the Pavilion Master of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. It was an extravagant dream for an ordinary inner sect core disciple to even talk to him, not to mention that he would grant all of his requests. Lin Yi really didn't expect that a simple sentence from Shanghai Tianhua would have such a big effect. However, when he thought about it, he realized that Shangguan Tianhua had never said anything about Su Zhaohe in public. It had only been a rumor, and yet he was already so powerful that everyone feared and respected him. He was even able to send word to the disciplinary hall in secret, let alone Zhou Weiqing himself. If Shangguan Tianhua's words hadn't been said now, but earlier, Lin Yi believed that he wouldn't have any trouble in the welcoming pavilion at all. Even Su Lingchong and the others wouldn't dare mess with him anymore. Of course, this was just a casual thought. Lin Yi wouldn't regret this kind of thing at all, and he wouldn't complain about it because the current environment where no one dared to provoke was not suitable for his growth at that time. If from the beginning, he was in a greenhouse cradle that stood aloof from worldly affairs, he probably wouldn't have such achievements now. But now, after seeing the scene of Su Lingchong being killed in seconds in the inner disciple competition, it was difficult for these clowns to pose any threat to Lin Yi. It was estimated that Shanghai Tianhua had also seen that after Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao joined forces, no one in the Gold Core realm could compete with them, so there was no need to let these clowns jump out and cause trouble. What Lin Yi needed now was more powerful experience. It was meaningless to continue to stay in the North Island. Next, he was bound to find an opportunity to go out of the North Island to do tasks. The preferential treatment given to him now was just to ensure that there would be no trouble in his backyard, and not to let these clowns drag him down. Somewhere in the North Island, in an underground secret room, Su Lingchong, who was dying, was lying on the bed. Meng Tong was guarding him nervously, and the mysterious man in black was also there. In addition, there was another person in the room, and it was Master Pao, who gave Su Lingchong the chrysanthemum treasure book last time. Master Pao. I failed to live up to your cultivation. Su Lingchong let Meng Tong help him stand up and apologized to Master Pao with difficulty. At this moment, although he was dying, his face was ruddy, which made Meng Tong secretly feel bad. This was a sign of the last radiance of the setting sun. Master Pao heard this, came over to check him up and down, and concluded, although the injury is very serious, it's not completely incurable. You were beaten up by Lin Yi like this, in fact, it's not unjust at all. Ah. Master Pao. You mean I can still be saved? Su Lingchong suddenly became spirited. Yes. Master Pao nodded, and then said, wait, we'll talk about it when Dr. Wan comes. Chapter 42:14. After a while, the mysterious woman pushed the door open and said to everyone, he stays, all of you go out. Master Pao and the man in black nodded and immediately went out. Meng Tong's status was the lowest. Although he was worried about Su Lingchong's injury, he did not dare to disobey the mysterious woman's order and could only follow her out of the room. The three of them waited outside. No one knew what the mysterious woman was going to do, and no one knew what was going on in the room at the moment. After a full hour, the mysterious woman pushed the door open and came out. How is he? The man in black asked quickly. Su Lingchong was his valued deputy. If he was trained well, he would be able to shoulder great responsibilities in the future. If he died like this, it would be a great loss. Master Pao also showed a concerned expression. After all, Su Lingchong was also his disciple. As for Meng Tong, he was no exception. I have injected him with the Fire Wolf War God gene. Although it is not perfect, at least it can ensure that he will not die. Not only that, but he will also become stronger than before, the mysterious woman said lightly. Fire Wolf War God? What is that? Meng Tong could not help but exclaim when he heard this. However, when he saw the cold eyes of the man in black and Master Pao, he immediately knew that he had misspoken. With his status, he was not qualified to know these things. Nothing, it's just a combination of a spirit beast and a human cultivator. The mysterious woman did not blame him and continued, in fact, the best modified body of the Fire Wolf War God is still in the secular world, not on Heaven Stage Island. It's just that living people can't be teleported here for the time being. We can only test it on Su Lingchong first. From the current results, it should be good. But we have to continue to observe for a while. Although Meng Tong did not understand and felt that it was amazing, he was relieved as long as Su Lingchong was fine. Su Lingchong suddenly disappeared again, and even Meng Tong strangely disappeared with him. This matter once again caused a stir in the 3 pavilions of the North Island. Many people speculated that they went out to find someone to treat them, but unfortunately, even Su Yuanjing did not know about it. There was an uproar outside, and Su Yuanjing himself was very anxious. However, during this period of time, although Su Lingchong had never told him the specific situation, as a big shot of the Elders Guild, he was definitely a shrewd person. There were some things that even if Su Lingchong did not say, he was also able to deduce some inside information through some of the daily clues and clues. He speculated that Su Lingchong and Meng Tong must have gone to some mysterious place to receive treatment for Su Lingchong's sudden disappearance this time. Their sudden increase in strength should also be related to this. If Senior Brother Ku Bai's strength did not reach the great circle of Foundation establishment, even if the higher-ups agreed, he would not be able to sit in the position of the 3rd Pavilion Master of the Welcome Pavilion. Since Senior Brother Ku Bai had already been promoted, the other Xiao Ran and the others, as well as Lin Yi, would naturally not be left behind. As long as they could keep it a secret, strong strength could not only protect them, but if Lin Yi had something to ask them to do in the future, it would also be more convenient, and they would not become a burden. In addition, there was another important reason why Lin Yi dared to promote everyone's strength. After this period of personal verification by Huang Xiaotao, one thing was already very clear. The promotion of strength was also the same, but it was not the same as in the secular world. In the secular world, because the spirit qi was extremely thin, those who had been promoted by Lin Yi's promotion could not be promoted by themselves, even if they worked hard to cultivate, it would be useless. But now, because the spirit qi on Heaven Stage Island was abundant, especially in the number 1 mansion where Lin Yi was located, the spirit qi concentration was hundreds of times higher than in the outside world. It was completely possible to cultivate normally, without the slightest influence, and there were no side effects, so Lin Yi could rest assured and boldly promote everyone's strength. Otherwise, except for Senior Brother Ku Bai, Lin Yi would not promote Xiao Ran and the others. It was not because of selfishness, but because they were different from Senior Brother Ku Bai. The 3 of them were far more talented than ordinary people. As long as the cultivation resources were in place, it was not difficult for them to break through and upgrade. As long as they let nature take its course, their strength foundation would be better and stronger, so there was no need for Lin Yi to spoil things through excessive enthusiasm. Chapter 42:15. However, now that he knew that there would be no side effects, there was no need to worry about this problem. After all, no matter what, it was not a bad thing to be strong. As for the foundation, with the qualifications of Xiao Ran and the others, they could completely make up for it by themselves. There would be no hidden dangers. However, what Lin Yi did not expect was that Shanghai Laner would come to the number 1 mansion every day and watch the situation of these people improving their strength from beginning to end. This girl had always disliked cultivation. Seeing such a great thing that could easily improve her strength, she naturally could not help but want to try it. In fact that Lin Yi could improve the strength of others was already known to Shanghai Laner when Huang Xiaodao's strength skyrocketed. However, at that time, she also wanted to become a master of the gold core stage, and Lin Yi did not have something like the myriad golden dan fruit, so there was no way to achieve it in one step. In any case, Shanghai Laner was absolutely reliable. Since she made a request again, even if Lin Yi was in a dilemma, he could not ignore it. Last time, in addition to not having the myriad golden dan fruit, there was no way to achieve it in one step. Another worry was that he was afraid of being suspected by Shanghai Tianhua. However, now that he thought about it carefully, although he did not have much contact with Shanghai Tianhua, the other party had always been helping him. Even if he guessed something through the changes in Shanghai Laner, it was unlikely that he would harm him. After thinking about this, Lin Yi immediately stopped declining and nodded in agreement. Senior sister, it's not impossible to improve your strength, but you have to take off your clothes in the process. Ah? Take off my clothes? Shang Guanlan was dumbfounded. She opened her mouth in disbelief and said, "What do you mean?" Shanghai Laner looked at Lin Yi suspiciously. Without waiting for Lin Yi to answer, she immediately turned to look at Huang Xiaotao. She asked, "Senior sister Xiaotao, you also take off your clothes?" "Yes, I have to take off my clothes." Huang Xiaotao nodded. "Really?" Shangguan Laner still didn't believe it. She was stunned for a long time, and then said to Lin Yi thoughtfully, "Do I have to become your woman to share this secret?" "Sure. Little junior brother, if you want senior sister, just say it directly. How dare you find an excuse to threaten me? You're so bad." This really isn't an excuse. It's supposed to be like this." Lin Yi couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Then we'll do as you say." Ku Zhongla, Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and Li Jingming. Do the four of them also have to take off their clothes? Shangguan Laner rolled her eyes and asked. Yes, they have to take them off as well. Huang Xiaotao answered on his behalf. Pfft. Shangguan Laner suddenly spurted. When she thought of the scene of several big men sitting together naked, she couldn't help but shudder. With a shocked expression as if her outlook on life had collapsed, she said, "Little junior brother. Your taste is a bit wrong. This won't do. Don't tell me that you saw Su Lingchong and Meng Tong being so affectionate together, so you suddenly had a whim and wanted to have a taste? Listen to little senior sister's advice. You can't do that." Shangguan Laner's shocked and exaggerated expression made Lin Yi laugh on the spot. He knew that Shanghai Laner was silly and cute. Who knew that this girl actually had such a funny attribute? He immediately laughed until he couldn't catch his breath and held his stomach. Huang Xiaotao was standing at the side. At this time, he was laughing so hard that he couldn't stand straight. He pointed at Shangguan Lan and couldn't say a word for a long time. As for the senior brothers who were suffering, they didn't dare to laugh out loud, but their bodies were shaking. People who didn't know would think they were having a collective cramp. This was also because the little curly bear was playing alone in the courtyard outside. If such a clown who wielded a pair of scissors was added to the mix, when the time came, one person and one pet would be amused. They could probably go and act in a comedy. What are you laughing at? Don't you think this matter is very serious? Shanghai Laner still didn't realize it and continued to scold Lin Yi with her hands on her hips. Senior sister, I think very highly of you. Little junior brother, don't learn bad things. Su Lingchong and Meng Tong, those annoying people, are now being privately ridiculed by many people. Only his grandfather is still kept in the dark. How pitiful. Oh, that's not right. His grandfather might have also noticed it, but he didn't dare to face the truth, so he could only pretend to be deaf and mute. Listening to this girl's words getting more and more off topic, Lin Yi finally forced himself to hold back his laughter. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he explained to her, "Little senior sister, you're really thinking too much about this. The reason why we have to take off our clothes is because in the process of increasing our strength, the true chi will skyrocket too much. You guys can't control it at all. Even if you wear clothes, it will explode. So it's better not to wear them. There's really no other meaning. Oh, so that's how it is. So I'm really thinking too much. Shanghai Laner stuck out her tongue embarrassedly. Then she patted her small chest and rejoiced, fortunately, little junior brother, you're still normal. You almost scared me to death just now. We're the ones who are going to laugh to death. Lin Yi, Huang Xiaotao, and the others couldn't help but laugh. Hee hee, alright. I've already admitted that I'm thinking too much. Shanghai Laner blushed and quickly changed the topic. Little junior brother, don't laugh anymore. Hurry up and help me increase my strength. Little senior sister, this is not a small matter. Have you really thought it through? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. This kind of matter was a big matter for any girl. Even a naive girl like Shanghai Laner would have to think about it for a while. Of course I've thought it through. I'm very serious. Shanghai Laner wrinkled her nose cutely, with a bold and unrestrained expression on her face. Then. All right. Lin Yi shrugged. Since Shanghai Laner had already said so, it would be inappropriate for a man like him to be shy. Senior brother Bitter, Xiao Ran, and the others immediately greeted each other and dispersed. Lin Yi took Shanghai Laner into the inner room for cultivation, and Huang Xiaotao followed them with a smile. As soon as the door of the inner room was closed, Lin Yi adjusted his state a little, then turned to Shanghai Laner and said, Little senior sister, are you ready? Let's start now. Ah. So soon. Shanghai Laner, who originally had a forthright expression, began to be shy when it was time to take off her clothes. She blushed and said to Lin Yi, Little junior brother, then, turn around first, okay? Lin Yi immediately turned around cooperatively. He couldn't help but laugh in his heart. She pretended to be forthright just now, but now she can't hide it anymore. After waiting for a while, he heard rustling behind him, and then there was no more movement. Lin Yi asked, Are you ready? Chapter 42:16. Well, just a little bit more. Shanghai Laner replied hesitantly. Just a little bit more? Lin Yi was slightly stunned, and then he heard Huang Xiaotao, who was beside him, couldn't help but laugh and say, What do you mean just a little bit more? You've clearly only taken off a shawl, and you haven't even untied the belt. Lin Yi was speechless. He thought that although this girl usually looked cheerful and carefree, after all, her upbringing was still there. In this kind of matter, compared to a shy girl like Huang Xiaotao, she was even more restrained. Who said that there was only a shawl? Sister Xiaotao is lying. I've clearly untied the belt halfway. Shanghai Laner argued behind him with a red face. Okay, but Lon, you'd better hurry up. It's getting late now. If you delay any longer, it will be dark. At that time, if Pavilion Master Shangguan is worried about you and comes to find you personally, won't you be in trouble? Huang Xiaotao reminded her with a smile covering her mouth. Shanghai Laner couldn't help but shiver. This kind of thing was really not impossible. Shanghai Tianhua had repeatedly warned her not to spend the night at Lin Yi's place. Immediately, she didn't dare to continue to dawdle. She clenched her teeth and plucked up her courage. She braced herself and quickly stripped herself clean. Okay, done. Shanghai Laner said with a trembling voice. She covered the important parts of her body with her hands while carefully and slowly walking behind Lin Yi. Lin Yi heard the voice and turned his head. He saw a shy and naked Shanghai Laner. Even though he had so many stunning beauties, he couldn't help but be completely stunned. Each of the beauties had their own merits, and all of them were the best in the world. But this Shanghai Laner, if he had to find a word to describe her, then it could only be a green lotus. Lin Yi had known Shangguan Laner for a long time. He also knew that this girl was unparalleled in beauty. However, she had always been carefree, which made Lin Yi subconsciously ignore this point. Now, he suddenly saw this scene. It would be strange if he wasn't stunned. In fact, not to mention Lin Yi, even Huang Xiaotao, who was next to him, couldn't help but feel a sense of pity when she saw the flawless Shangguan Laner, especially the temptation that came from her natural naivety. It simply made people restless and unable to shift their eyes away. "Can we start now?" Shangguan Laner said weakly with a blushing face. Being stared at by Lin Yi like this, her heart was not only bashful, but also strangely excited. "Okay." Lin Yi swallowed his saliva with difficulty. He forcibly moved his eyes away from Shangguan Laner, took a deep breath to stabilize his mind, and then began to improve her strength. 2 hours later, Shangguan Laner's strength successfully reached the peak of the foundation establishment stage. Even when Lin Yi withdrew his hands from her wrists, she was still blushing shyly and did not dare to raise her head to look at him. At this moment, because of the true qi baptism, Shangguan Laner's whole body was covered with fine beads of sweat. It made the originally smooth and seductive scene even more irresistible. Even Lin Yi, who had always been extremely determined, couldn't control himself at this moment. If it weren't for Huang Xiaodao's presence, it was not impossible for him to eat Shangguan Laner, who was currently trying to resist, just like this. Is it done?" Shangguan Laner's long eyelashes trembled, and she shyly opened her eyes. "It's done. Little senior sister, put on your clothes." Lin Yi forced himself to calm down. He reluctantly withdrew his gaze from her body. If nothing unexpected happened, it should be dark outside at this time. If this little girl did not hurry back, maybe the Soaring Sky Pavilion's pavilion master, Shanghai Tianhua, would really come to visit. That would not only be an honor, but if he knew about what happened today, there might be a storm. After all, this was his only precious granddaughter. "Oh." Shangguan Laner obediently responded, and her heart could not help but feel relieved, but it was also accompanied by a trace of inexplicable loss. Why did she have this feeling? Even she could not understand. Huang Xiaotao had already carefully prepared hot water and a towel. After wiping Shangguan Laner's body, she helped her put on her clothes, and Lin Yi reminded her, "Little senior sister, you must keep today's matter a secret, even if it's your grandfather." "I know, senior sister's mouth is very tight, little junior brother, you can rest assured." As soon as she put on her clothes, Shangguan Laner immediately regained her spirit, which really made Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao laugh. When she said goodbye to Lin Yi and returned to Soaring Sky Pavilion's Hualan residence with the little curly bear, the sky was already completely dark, and Shanghai Tianhua was practicing calligraphy in the study while waiting for her to return home. As expected, as soon as he took a look at his precious granddaughter, Shangguan Tianhua, this super big shot who never moved no matter what, was startled. "Little Lan, what's the matter with you?" Shanghai Tianhua did not even bother to write, and quickly put down the brush, looked up and down at Shanghai Laner, and asked nervously. "I just came back from little junior brother's place, and I didn't spend the night at his place." "Grandpa, why are you so nervous?" Shanghai Laner blinked and said. She had wanted to live with Huang Xiaotao, but unfortunately Shanghai Tianhua did not allow it, so she could only give up. Grandpa is not talking about this." Shanghai Tianhua could not help but be choked by his cute granddaughter, and said with a wry smile, "I'm talking about your strength. How did it suddenly soar to the great perfection of the foundation establishment realm?" "Oh, I ate a lot of foundation establishment pills at little junior brother's place, so my strength naturally improved, hee." Shanghai Laner rolled her eyes and said. "You ate foundation establishment pills?" Shanghai Tianhua was suddenly speechless and shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. This precious granddaughter was deceiving him like a child. Just eating some foundation establishment pills, and she could directly go from the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm to the great perfection of the foundation establishment realm. If foundation establishment pills were so easy to get, wouldn't so many cultivators in seclusion in the world go crazy? Yes, little junior brother is a master of alchemy, he can refine a lot. Shanghai Laner still felt that her lie was very good, and while sticking out her tongue cutely, she continued to lie. All right then. However, little Lan, you still need to work hard on your cultivation and build up your foundation. Otherwise, you'll just have a high cultivation level but no actual power. Shangguan Tianhua nodded helplessly. Although he was very confused, he did not intend to get to the bottom of it. He believed that Lin Yi would not harm his granddaughter, not to mention that in this moment, he had already checked Shanghai Laner up and down without a trace. Except for the improvement of strength, there was nothing unusual, so he was finally relieved. R466. Chapter 42:17. Oh, I know. Shangguan Lan thought that she'd gotten away with it, and her face was filled with excitement. She didn't know that Shangguan Tianhua had only turned a blind eye because he trusted Lin Yi. While Shanghai Laner was busy fooling her grandfather, the pavilion master of Blue Cloud Pavilion, Yu Zhenyang, once again arrived at Lin Yi's inner gate number 1 mansion and gently touched the restriction outside the door. Greetings, Pavilion Master. Lin Yi hurriedly came out to welcome him. He knew that with the strength of this Pavilion Master, it would be a piece of cake if he wanted to sneak past the seal and enter without a sound. The Pavilion Master was just being polite, which was why he had lowered himself to wait outside the door. No need to be so courteous. The appointments have been made. Ku Zhongla will be promoted to 3rd Pavilion Master of Welcome Pavilion and Xiao Ran will be promoted to Senior Brother Supervisor of Blue Cloud Pavilion. This news will be officially announced tomorrow, Yu Zhenyang said with a smile. That's great. Thank you, Pavilion Master. Lin Yi was overjoyed. These 2 positions were rare positions for Ku Zhongla and Xiao Ran. As long as they developed normally, they would have a bright future. That's what I should do. There's one more thing. There's news from Lu Bianren. Yu Zhenyang smiled, and then his expression became a little serious. He did go on a mission during this time. The mission location is in the Wayark Sea area near the South Island. However, the people who went with him to perform the mission have all returned. Only he has no news. Pavilion Master, do you mean that Senior Brother Lu is the only one who left the team? Lin Yi's heart suddenly tightened. His intuition told him that something might have happened to Lu Bianren. That's right. Those who returned don't know his whereabouts or where he went. They only said that they parted ways in the middle of the mission. Yu Zhenyang nodded. Parted ways in the middle of the mission? Why? Lin Yi frowned slightly and then asked, Pavilion Master, do you know what mission Senior Brother Lu went on this time? The mission itself isn't important, Lin Yi. I can tell you with certainty that the reason why Lu Bianren separated from the others was to find Deputy Pavilion Master Yao, Yu Zhenyang concluded. Vice Pavilion Master Yao? Lin Yi was stunned again. Although he had a good relationship with Lu Bianren, he had never mentioned Deputy Pavilion Master Yao to him. Even Senior Brother Ku Bai was a bitter person. He had never talked about it. That's right. I don't treat you as an outsider, so I won't beat around the bush. This Deputy Pavilion Master Yao has always been Lu Bianren's greatest backer. Yu Zhenyang directly admitted, a few years ago. Deputy Pavilion Master Yao had led a team out on a mission, and after that, there had been no news from them. Not a single one of them had returned. The last place they had received news from was in the Rose Arc territorial waters. Therefore, Lu Bianren had specially gone there this time to find Deputy Pavilion Master Yao. The mission was just a cover. Once we get there, we'll naturally be separated from the main group. I see. Lin Yi nodded thoughtfully. He had heard Senior Brother Ku Bai mention this before, but at that time, he only said that their backer had gone out on a mission. He hadn't been back for a few years, so he didn't say it in such detail. From the looks of it, Lu Bianren had most likely gone to find someone. He was previously the 3rd Pavilion Master of Welcome Pavilion. Although he was ostracized, he still held an important position and couldn't go out on a mission. After stepping down from his position, he became the 2nd Senior Brother of Blue Cloud Pavilion's Outer Sanctum Steward. Even though his position had only risen and not fallen, there were many fewer restrictions. But even if they were separated at the beginning, after the mission ended, those people didn't wait for senior brother Lu and directly returned on their own? Isn't that a little unreasonable? Lin Yi asked. On the surface, he will definitely wait for a while, but this is just for show. In fact, although Lu Bianren is considered a genius disciple, and his life has always been smooth sailing, but because of his personality, after Deputy Pavilion Master Yao disappeared, his life has not been as smooth as it should be. Yu Zhenyang sighed slightly. Unlike senior brother Ku Bai, who had average aptitude, Lu Bianren had shone brilliantly for a period of time in the Blue Cloud Pavilion, which had always lacked talents. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left an impression in the Pavilion Master's heart. Unfortunately, due to the disappearance of Deputy Pavilion Master Yao, Lu Bianren was like an eagle that had lost its wings. Since then, he had become a nobody. When senior brother Lu was in the Welcome Pavilion, I know that, but wasn't he promoted to be the second senior brother of Blue Cloud Pavilion's Outer Sanctum Steward? Lin Yi couldn't help but feel strange. In terms of position, it is indeed a promotion. But first, he doesn't have a backer, and second, he isn't slick and shrewd enough. He can't actually sit firmly in his position as the second senior brother of Outer Sanctum Steward. As far as I know, after he took office, he didn't have any substantial power. He was directly taken over by the eldest senior brother of Outer Sanctum Steward. Yu Zhenyang said with slight regret. Is that so? Before Lu Bianren took office, Lin Yi had already warned him to pay attention to this situation, so he didn't look surprised. Instead, he said, but this kind of situation where one sect is dominant is not a good thing for the long-term development of Blue Cloud Pavilion, right? Don't tell me the higher-ups don't interfere at all and don't ask about it at all. Although that's what you said, the higher-ups don't interfere with the competition between the disciples. This has long been an unspoken rule. No one will break this rule rashly. After all, this is also a reflection of one's ability. Yu Zhenyang shook his head and said. Disciple understands. Thank you, Pavilion Master, for telling me. Lin Yi didn't dwell on this matter and immediately nodded to express his gratitude. It's nothing. It's a small matter. Yu Zhenyang smiled. After sending Yu Zhenyang off, Lin Yi immediately went to the Welcome Pavilion to find senior brother Ku Bai and told him about this matter. After all, senior brother Ku Bai was closer to Lu Bianren than Lu Bianren. Alas, first it was Deputy Pavilion Master Yao, and now it's senior brother Lu. But I can't help at all. What should I do? Senior brother Ku Bai couldn't help but sigh deeply after hearing this. There's no other way. Now we can only wait and see. I hope that they are lucky. Lin Yi also said helplessly. Although he knew the cause, there was still no news. Even if he wanted to help, it was useless. At the end of the day, it's all my fault for being too useless. If I was a little stronger, I could have gone with senior brother Lu. That way, we could have taken care of each other. It's better than standing on the sidelines like this. Sigh. The bitter senior brother blamed himself. Senior brother Ku Bai, you don't have to blame yourself so much. Although I haven't seen Deputy Pavilion Master Yao, I know senior brother Lu. He is not an ordinary person. It's not that easy for him to get into an accident. Maybe there are other hidden reasons. Lin Yi comforted him and then changed the topic. By the way, in addition to this matter, there's another good news to tell you. The position of third pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion has been confirmed to fall on your head. Be mentally prepared tomorrow. Chapter 42:18. Really? The bitter senior brother was taken aback, and his entire body froze on the spot. This was something he had never dared to dream of. Being able to sit on the position of Clear Cloud Pavilion's eldest senior brother in charge of the newcomer recruitment hall, he was already very satisfied. When had he ever dreamed of becoming the third pavilion lord of the Welcoming Pavilion? This was a publicly recognized gold-plated position. Only the most outstanding genius disciples had the opportunity to get their hands on it. Pavilion Master Yu said it himself. Senior Brother Ku, do you think it's true? Otherwise, why do you think I suddenly raised your strength a few days ago? Wasn't it to prepare for this? Lin Yi said with a chuckle. Junior Brother Lin. What do you want me to say? The bitter senior brother was so excited that he couldn't speak coherently. He held Lin Yi's arm tightly with both hands and stammered. He couldn't say a proper sentence for a long time. If he hadn't known Lin Yi, Deputy Pavilion Leader Yao and Lu Bianren had disappeared one after the other. If he hadn't known Lin Yi, his current situation would have been so miserable that he wouldn't even be able to see the light of day. How could such a huge pie fall into his lap? All of this was thanks to Lin Yi. What's there to talk about? If we don't take care of our own people, are we going to let outsiders take care of it? Lin Yi patted his senior brother's shoulder and smiled faintly, not minding it. That's true, but... Senior Marshal Brother Ku Bai was still so grateful that he couldn't speak. No buts, Senior Brother Ku, just do your best. I don't think I'll be staying in the North Island Pavilion often in the future. When that time comes, Xiao Ran and the others will have to rely on you to take care of them. Don't let them get bullied, Lin Yi interrupted. Yes, I know. Even if Junior Brother Lin didn't say it, I would still do it. Senior Brother Ku Bai nodded heavily. That's it then. Prepare well tonight and wait for tomorrow's grand inauguration. Lin Yi laughed. He didn't stay too long in the welcoming pavilion and turned around to leave. The next day, the news of Ku Zhongla becoming the new third pavilion master of welcoming pavilion quickly spread throughout the three major pavilions. Especially in Blue Cloud Pavilion, everyone was talking about it. The position of the third pavilion master of the welcoming pavilion had been vacant for so long. This was a big piece of meat, and many powerful people had their eyes on it. Who would have thought that it would fall into the hands of such an unknown person like Ku Zhongla? This was simply shocking. However, when they heard that Ku Zhongla was Lin Yi's loyal follower, they were no longer surprised. With Lin Yi's current position in the three great pavilions, he was like the sun in the sky. It wasn't strange for him to help Ku Zhongla operate such a position. At the same time, Xiao Ran took over Ku Zhongla's original position and became the Blue Cloud Pavilion's newcomer manager, eldest senior brother. This did not attract too much attention. After all, it was only a small matter, and it was far from the glory of the position of third pavilion master. However, on the same day, the three major pavilions had another piece of extremely attention-grabbing news. Su Lingchong, who was previously defeated by Lin Yi in one move and disappeared, finally returned. Perhaps it was because he had lost too much face in the previous competition, but young Master Su's return this time was not as high profile as last time, even though he had already recovered from his injuries. He almost quietly returned to the Soaring Sky Pavilion, and after that, he did not cause any commotion. Originally, the second senior brother of the inner sect of the Chong Tian Pavilion was determined to get the job. But now, he didn't have any hope. After all, even if his strength was not bad, he had already become Lin Yi's stepping stone. Even if he had Su Yuanzheng, his grandfather, running around for him, it was impossible to win the second senior brother, the inner disciple manager. Moreover, even if he could win it, it would not convince the public. It was rare for Su Lingchong to be so low-key. After Lin Yi learned of the news, he did not bother to take the initiative to find fault with him. He continued to live a peaceful and leisurely life in the #1 mansion of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. 2 days later, as the new official disciples of the three major pavilions had gradually adapted to the new environment and rhythm, the three major pavilions finally released the official disciple tasks for the new year. There were two main tasks. One was the weapon task, which required every new official disciple, including the core disciples of the inner disciple like Lin Yi, to find a way to build a suitable weapon. According to the tradition of the three major pavilions, there would be a weapon competition in the middle of the year. All disciples could sign up for it. Of course, if one did not have a weapon, he would naturally not be eligible. In addition to the weapon task, the other was the trial task. Every official disciple of the 3 major pavilions could accept this task. As long as they completed the task, they could get the corresponding guild points. These points could be accumulated and exchanged for the corresponding rewards at the Cultivators Guild in the North Island. In principle, these tasks were voluntary, but the 3 major pavilions set a bottom line, that was, every official disciple, including the core disciples of the inner disciple, must complete more than 2 trial tasks every year. This was only the most basic training requirement, and there was no room for laziness. Even a young master like Su Lingchong with a strong background, as an inner core disciple, had to do the task if he wanted to get along well. No one else could do it for him. Of course, with Su Yuanzheng as his grandfather, he would not lack cultivation resources no matter what. But how could an ambitious person like him be willing to just dawdle around and be an ordinary disciple? Even if he could not compete for the position of the second senior brother in charge of the inner disciple because of the tragic ending of the inner disciple competition this time, it was only a temporary thing. In the future, he would definitely be promoted. In order to avoid being criticized by others, he had to perform as well as possible from the beginning of these basic tasks. Of course, if it was a second-generation cultivator without the slightest ambition, it would be a different story. Take Shanghai Laner for example. This girl was not in the mood to cultivate at all. As for the trial task, it was purely for her own pleasure. Even if she did not go, no one would say anything about her. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were naturally going to do the task. The 2 of them went to the task list specially set up by the 3 major pavilions and scanned it up and down. There were hundreds of trial tasks of various sizes on it. There were individual tasks with low difficulty, and there were also group tasks with high difficulty. It was only possible to complete them with the cooperation of many people. But one thing was certain, whether it was individual tasks or group tasks, they were all transferred from the Cultivators Guild in the North Island. Therefore, some of the long-term tasks were quite familiar. At this time, there was already a sea of people in front of the task list. There were many disciples of the 3 major pavilions gathered. R1152. Chapter 42:19. Looking around, many of them were inner core disciples that he had seen in the inner core competition before. Of course, most of them were outer disciples. Lin Yi also saw some old acquaintances of the Welcome Pavilion in the crowd, such as Dongfang Badeo and Murongzhen. When these people saw Lin Yi, they couldn't help but reveal expressions of reverence. Wherever Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao passed, everyone consciously moved away, not daring to offend them in the slightest. Today was different from the past. In the past, no matter how much Lin Yi was in the limelight, it was still in the category of the newcomers of the Welcome Pavilion. They could be envious, they could talk about it, and they could sneer at him if they were not pleasing to the eye. But now it was different. Because of the words of Shanghai Tianhua, Lin Yi and they were now in 2 different worlds. Facing Lin Yi was like facing Ram Jia, who had appeared out of nowhere. They only dared to look up to him, but did not dare to have any disrespect. None of them were fools. They knew that in the face of a true and absolute gap, any self-righteous thoughts were foolish thoughts that would only bring disaster to themselves and wouldn't bring them any benefits. The rest of the people, especially those who had been against Lin Yi, only dared to stay away from Lin Yi now, but there was one exception. In the face of Lin Yi, not only did she not avoid, but she took the initiative to come up and deliberately rubbed against Lin Yi inadvertently. This person was Murongzhen. Senior brother Lin Yi, I haven't seen you for a long time. I miss you. Murongzhen greeted him in a coquettish voice. In the cultivation world, strength was respected. It was not out of line for her to call Lin Yi senior brother. Seeing this woman coming to seduce Lin Yi so seductively, Huang Xiaotao on the side unconsciously held Lin Yi's arm. She had already restored her appearance and confidence. Of course, she would not lose to a coquettish woman like Murongzhen, and she also had confidence in Lin Yi's determination. But subconsciously, she still did not want Lin Yi to have any contact with such a woman with a bad reputation. Lin Yi smiled and patted Huang Xiaodao's hand, indicating that she did not need to worry. He turned his head to look at Murongzhen and said lightly, "With the past between us, it is a little strange to say that I miss you. Aya, senior brother Lin Yi, you are a magnanimous person. I have eyes but failed to recognize your greatness. I apologize for offending you. Please don't take it to heart," Murongzhen said anxiously. "Senior brother Lin Yi, please forgive me. Don't play any tricks. If you have something to say, just say it. I don't have time to listen to you beat around the bush," Lin Yi said calmly without turning his head as he looked at the mission board. Senior brother Lin Yi, do you think I can still be the manager of the newcomers for a while longer? Don't worry, I will definitely do my best to assist Pavilion Master Ku and Senior Brother Xiao. I dare not have any other thoughts, Murongzhen said carefully. Although Su Lingchong had returned, he kept a low profile and did not meet anyone. He had never been interested in her. Her only support was Si Hai Xiao, but he had no influence over the 3 pavilions. She was currently in a very bad situation. Ku Zongla was appointed as the 3rd pavilion master of the welcoming pavilion, and Xiao Ran was appointed as the eldest senior brother of the newcomers. It could be said that the power of Blue Cloud Pavilion and the welcoming pavilion was completely controlled by Lin Yi's people. She was merely the 2nd senior brother of the newcomers, yet she was completely suppressed by Xiao Ran. Even if she tried her best, she could not fight back at all. Whether or not she could keep her position was completely dependent on Lin Yi's mood. If Lin Yi did not like her and wanted to take her down, it would only take a word from him. She, Murongzhen, would not be able to do anything about it. I am no longer in the welcoming pavilion, and I will not interfere with the matters of the welcoming pavilion. I will give you these words, take care, Lin Yi replied. Yes, yes. Thank you, senior brother Lin Yi, for your magnanimity. I will definitely keep it in mind. Murongzhen was immediately overjoyed. After expressing her gratitude, she hurriedly left. Otherwise, if she stayed for too long and made Lin Yi annoyed, she would be in deep trouble. Moreover, no matter what, she was still Su Lingchong's subordinate. If rumors were to spread and Su Lingchong found out that she was purposely trying to curry favor with Lin Yi, it would be quite a disaster. Looking at Murongzhen's back as she hurriedly left, Lin Yi's lips curled into a noncommittal smile. With Ku Zongla and Xiao Ran working together to control the overall situation, her position as the 2nd senior brother of the newcomers was no longer important. She would not be able to cause any trouble at all, so it did not matter if she was removed or not. Of course, Lin Yi also knew that with this woman's temperament, even if she temporarily tolerated it, she would not be so tactful forever. There would be a day when she would stir up trouble. However, it was not a bad thing for Xiao Ran to have such a person eyeing him covetously. Xiao Ran was a good person in all aspects, but his temperament was too lukewarm. Murongzhen's existence could stimulate his fighting spirit and keep him vigilant at all times, so he did not dare to slack off. This could be considered as making the best use of her. After sending Murongzhen away, Lin Yi continued to scan through the many missions on the mission list. After a while, his eyes suddenly focused and fell on a trial mission at the edge of the list. The reason why this mission could attract Lin Yi's attention was that its location was in the Wayark Sea near the South Island. Lin Yi did not know any deputy pavilion leader Yao, but he was still very concerned about Lu Bianren's disappearance. Previously, he was too far away and could not help even if he wanted to. But now, if he took the opportunity of the trial mission to find Lu Bianren, it would be a good idea to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. After taking a closer look at the mission content, Lin Yi found that this was actually a hunting mission, and it was not easy at all. The target was Wu Baoyang, whose strength was at the peak of the late stage of gold core. He was a famous evil cultivator in the North Island, specializing in sucking the blood essence of virgin girls for cultivation. Most of the cultivator tribes in the North Island and its vicinity had left traces of this person's crimes. According to the rough statistics of the Law Enforcement Hall, there were a total of 300 women who had been killed by this person. This was only an incomplete count. There were many missing women who were likely to have been killed by this person, but no one thought of him at that time. This series of cases really caused a sensation in the North Island. Because of the boiling public resentment, even the top management of the 3 pavilions were alarmed. After the law enforcement hall intervened in the investigation, they finally locked the target on Wu Baoliang, the evil cultivator. Unfortunately, at that time, when the masters of the law enforcement hall were just about to take action, this person directly escaped from the North Island after hearing the news. Since then, he had never appeared in the North Island and had always been on the run. According to the usual practice, the scope of the law enforcement hall of the 3 pavilions was only in the North Island. Although there had been cases of pursuing people to the ends of the earth at all costs, this was very rare. Only those special criminals who endangered the safety of the 3 pavilions could enjoy this special treatment. R1152. Chapter 4220. Under normal circumstances, once a wanted criminal escaped from the North Island, the law enforcement hall would at most inform the law enforcement forces of other Heaven Stage islands, even if they did not completely ignore it. If the wanted criminal was not caught in a short time, it would become a trial mission, and many disciples of the 3 pavilions would go to capture him. Of course, the premise was that they had enough strength. In addition to posting trial missions, the law enforcement hall would also provide some corresponding clues and information. For example, Wu Baoliang's most recent sighting was in the Crepe Arc territorial waters. The number of people for the mission is 1 or 2. That's just right. Lin Yi nodded. He wanted to accept this mission. After all, Lu Bianren had treated him well. Now that he had this opportunity, regardless of whether he could find Lu Bianren in the end, he had to at least take this opportunity to give it a try. He told Huang Xiaotao, who was beside him. Naturally, Huang Xiaotao didn't have any objections. As long as she could be with Lin Yi, everything else was up to Lin Yi. She didn't really care what kind of mission they were going to do. Lin Yi nodded and immediately brought Huang Xiaotao to Blue Cloud Pavilion's eldest senior brother, Jia Mufan, to receive the mission. Receiving a trial mission was not a trivial matter. Outer sect disciples had to look for the eldest senior brother who was in charge of the outer sect, while inner sect disciples naturally had to look for the eldest senior brother who was in charge of the inner sect. At this time, Jia Mufan was working not far away. He was surrounded by several Blue Cloud Pavilion inner sect disciples who were also preparing to receive the mission. Junior brother Lin, junior sister Huang, long time no see. How have you been? In the crowd, Jia Mufan recognized Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao at a glance. He immediately took the initiative to greet them with a smile. During the inner disciple competition, he was there to witness it with his own eyes. Even if he was the eldest senior brother in charge of managing the inner disciples of Clear Cloud Pavilion, and in name, the number 1 figure among all the inner disciples of Clear Cloud Pavilion, in front of Lin Yi, he didn't dare to put on any airs of a eldest senior brother. Putting aside the fact that Lin Yi was the rookie king of the inner sect, his strength and potential were not to be underestimated. The key was his identity. He was a disciple personally appointed by Shanghai Tianhua and was about to become the next Ram Jie. Even the pavilion master of the Blue Cloud Pavilion, Yu Zhenyang, had to be kind to him and would grant all his requests, let alone Jia Mufan, a senior disciple who was in charge of the inner sanctum. Don't look down on this kind of position. The higher the position, the harder it was to sit on it. Not only did it require great strength and influence, it also required good judgment. If you accidentally offended a person with an extraordinary background like Lin Yi, you would definitely be punished. Jia Mufan's position as the eldest senior brother in charge of the inner sect had probably come to an end. Senior brother Jia, how have you been? Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao returned the greeting in unison. If people respect me, I will respect them tenfold. Lin Yi was not an arrogant and shallow person. Even if he did not have a close relationship with a person like Jia Mufan, he should at least maintain a good relationship with him on the surface. This way, it would be much more convenient for him to handle many things in the future. They saw Jia Mufan and Lin Yi greet each other. The group of inner sect disciples who had gathered around to receive the mission tactfully moved aside and walked outside. Although they were also high and mighty inner sect core disciples, they could not be compared to Lin Yi and Jia Mufan at all. However, he couldn't compare to Lin Yi and Jia Mufan at all. He could only step aside for now. In fact, even if they did not move aside, Jia Mufan would not care about them at this moment. These people were more important than Lin Yi. It was clear at a glance. Junior brother Lin and junior sister Huang, are you preparing to receive the mission? Jia Mufan asked with a face full of joy. The purpose of their visit was obvious at a glance. That's right. Senior brother Jia, please report that the trial mission we are preparing to receive is to hunt down Wu Baoyang, Lin Yi said bluntly. Hunt down Wu Baoyang? Junior brother Lin, are you sure you want to receive this mission? Jia Mufan blanked for a moment after hearing Lin Yi's words, and the other Clear Cloud Pavilion inner disciples who were waiting at the side also went into an uproar. Every one of them looked at Lin Yi with more astonishment than before. They were all waiting to receive the mission, but none of them were willing to accept it. In fact, they had not even considered it from the beginning to the end. In fact, the mission to hunt down Wu Baoyang had been on the list for several years. However, it had always been on the edge of the list and had never disappeared. The only change was the location of Wu Baoyang's recent activities. There was no other reason than that ordinary disciples were not willing to accept it. In the eyes of the crowd, this kind of hunting mission was absolutely arduous and unrewarding. Putting aside the fact that these traitors were all powerful people, it would take a lot of time and energy just to find these people, even with the information provided by the officials. In the end, it would still be difficult to find them, not to mention that they would have to fight for their lives. Instead of taking such a huge risk and paying such a huge price to hunt down such a fierce person, it was better to use the time to search for treasures. If they were lucky and found some heaven-defying treasure, it would not be impossible for them to ascend to the heavens in a single step. Even if they were unlucky, they would at most return empty-handed. They would not have to risk their lives so easily. There were so many low-risk and high-reward missions, but they had to hunt down Wu Baoyang, who killed without blinking an eye. Wasn't there something wrong with their brains? However, although everyone was surprised, they still did not dare to mock Lin Yi in front of him. On second thought, it might be that Lin Yi deliberately chose such a difficult trial mission to show off his powerful strength. After all, in the previous inner disciple competition, Lin Yi's powerful strength was obvious to all, especially when he teamed up with Huang Xiaotao. No matter who their opponent was, they could kill them in one move. They could be said to be invincible among the Gold Core stage. Although Wu Baoyang, a peak Gold Core stage expert, was fierce and brutal, if he encountered these two, he would probably suffer. Not bad. Thank you, senior brother Jia. Lin Yi saw everyone's expression and nodded with a faint smile. Well, since junior brother Lin and junior sister Huang have made up their minds, I won't say much. I will report to you now. I wish you success. Jia Mufan smiled. Thank you. Goodbye. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao cupped their hands and bowed. They immediately turned and left to prepare for the mission. Although they were invincible in the Gold Core stage after teaming up, after all, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao were at the early stage of the Gold Core stage. After they went out, they did not have the capital to do whatever they wanted. They had to make more preparations in advance to avoid being caught off guard. In addition to preparing some things that might be used in the mission, the two also needed to say goodbye to everyone. After all, they did not know how long they would be gone, so they did not want to worry about them. In addition to Shanghai Laner, senior brother Ku Baoyang, Xiaoran, and others, Lin Yi also deliberately went to tell the King of Rags who was still at his post. The rest was his old friend, Hong Zhong. Chapter 42-21. You're going to the South Island? Hong Zhong was slightly stunned when he heard the news from Lin Yi. He quickly reminded him, the South Island is the base camp of the spirit beasts, and they've always rejected humans. If it's not necessary, I advise you not to go there. Shopkeeper Hong, you've misunderstood. I'm not going to the South Island. I'm just going to the Wayark territorial waters near the South Island. Lin Yi quickly explained with a smile. Oh, that's not a problem. Apart from the South Island itself, there are many human cultivators living on the islands nearby. Hong Zhong was relieved. He thought for a while and said, the Wayark territorial waters is a place where people of good and bad mix together. It's said that it's very chaotic, but there's a branch of our Hong Chamber of Commerce there. The shopkeeper is called Wei Xiaodong, and he's an old friend of mine for many years. After you go there, you can reveal your identity. If you need anything from him, just let me know. Wei Xiaodong. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you, shopkeeper Hong. Lin Yi smiled. The scene before him was somewhat familiar. Before he left for Mount Hutsai Tianwu, Hong Zhong also told him the same thing. However, at that time, he introduced Kai Zhongyang. This time, it was Wei Xiaodong. Now that he thought about it, it was all thanks to Hong Zhong's warning that Lin Yi was able to escape from the Middle Island in one piece and obtain so many benefits. Otherwise, he would have been captured by the Snow Sword faction since he could not even find a place to stay when he went to the Middle Island. It was unknown whether he could still be alive or not. Thinking of this, Lin Yi could not help but secretly laugh. This was the same familiar situation, and he did not know what the final outcome would be. Sigh, there's no need to thank me. Even without my relationship, this is Wei Xiaodong's duty. Have you forgotten that you are now the honorary vice president of our Hong Consortium's Chamber of Commerce? Hong Zhong could not help but laugh. It's still confidential. Without a public announcement from your superiors, he might not even recognize me as an honorary vice president. Your old friendship is more reliable. Lin Yi shook his head. Speaking of which, I haven't seen him for a few years, and I don't know what kind of situation he's in right now. However, if something unexpected happens, young hero Lin, you might as well directly reveal your identity as the honorary vice president. Even if someone suspects it, with the Hong Chamber of Commerce's internal information channels, they'll be able to quickly find the Middle Island headquarters to verify it. Don't underestimate this identity. In a small place like the Verdant Arc territorial waters, no one in the branch will dare to disobey you. Otherwise, it will be equivalent to betrayal, and the punishment will be very heavy, Hong Zhong warned. Okay, I got it. Lin Yi nodded. Although it was said that a powerful dragon could not suppress a local snake, he and Huang Xiaotao were going to the Wayark territorial waters, and they were unfamiliar with the people and the place. If even the Hong Chamber of Commerce branch there did not cooperate with them, it would indeed become very troublesome. If he really had no other choice, he could only use his power to suppress them. After bidding farewell to Hong Zhong, everything was ready. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao immediately set off to the Wayark territorial waters. As Huang Xiaotao's spirit bird was an excellent flying spirit beast, the two of them naturally did not need to spend any extra effort. 2 people and 1 bird could directly set off from the 3 major pavilions of the North Island to the Wayark territorial waters. This distance almost spanned across the entire map of Heaven Stage Island, and the journey was not short. Even if the flying spirit beast traveled day and night without rest, it would still take at least 10 days. If there were any accidents or dangers along the way, needless to say, it would be even more troublesome. Fortunately, apart from the fact that Huang Xiaotao's spiritual bird wasn't very aggressive, it had excellent qualities in all other aspects. Not only was it fast, but it also flew steadily and had high alertness. Most importantly, it had super strong physical strength. These few qualities were very rare for a pure flying spiritual beast. In addition, the route that Lin Yi chose at the beginning was to advance along the edge of the coast, so the degree of safety was quite guaranteed. Therefore, the first few days were calm, and there were no twists and turns. However, next, they needed to cross the vast sea. This could not be helped. If they kept walking on the ground, although it was not impossible to reach the South Island, they would need to go all the way to the Middle Island, and then from the Middle Island to the South Island. The time needed for this would not be 10 days, 20 days, or even a month. It was such a long journey, and they had to carry 2 people on their back. Not to mention Huang Xiaotao's spirit bird, even the best flying spirit beast would not be able to keep an eye on them. Moreover, the Middle Island surroundings were strictly controlled. Unless the signs of those big forces were hung, they were not allowed to take off at all, let alone cross. This was not a small problem. Of course, if Lin Yi was riding on the special mount of the Island Master's pavilion in the will of heaven, then it would be a different story. Unfortunately, this was not the case. It's okay. As long as we keep enough vigilance, we can avoid any danger in advance. Don't worry too much. Lin Yi glanced at Huang Xiaotao. Seeing her nervous expression, he smiled and comforted her. I'm not afraid with you here. Huang Xiaotao nodded obediently. In fact, she was not unfamiliar with trial missions at all. In the past few years, she basically wandered around the North Island's Cultivators Guild when she had nothing to do, but she rarely left the North Island. Even if she left the island, she would at most go to places like Mount Tianwu, and would not go too far away. However, this time, not only did they have to cross the entire Heaven Stage Island from the north to the south, but they also had to cross the vast sea. This was the first time in her history. In the past, she had heard many rumors about the dangers of crossing the sea. It would be a lie to say that she was not nervous at all. Even so, she always felt inexplicably at ease when she sat next to Lin Yi, and the little bit of panic in her heart also disappeared. Crossing the sea, the most dangerous thing is not the sea beasts below, nor the ferocious birds in the sky, but the cultivators and the sea fog. Lin Yi let Huang Xiaotao snuggle up to him while he analyzed and explained to her to reassure her. Although the martial world is dangerous, human cultivators will not have too big a problem as long as they pay attention and don't let people get close to them easily. As for the sea fog, it is the most fatal trouble. Fortunately, we have prepared in advance, so we don't have to worry too much. Chapter 42-22. Once they were within the range of the sea fog, the map was no longer of any use. Even if there were any signs that could assist in determining the direction, they could not be seen in the sea fog. The only thing they could rely on was the compass. In order to avoid any accidents, Lin Yi specially prepared 2 special sea compasses. He carried one with him and Huang Xiaotao carried the other in case of emergencies. With the compass, it meant that no matter how thick the sea fog was, they did not have to worry about getting lost. As long as the direction was right, they would eventually reach their destination as long as they were careful. However, the compass was not foolproof. Just like the Bermuda Triangle in the secular world, it was said that there were special meteorite magnetic fields in some of the sea areas of the heavenly island that could disrupt the compass. If there was also the sea fog, once they fell into it, it would be really dangerous. Whether they could come out alive or not depended on God's will. Of course, the route chosen by Lin Yi had been personally verified by many people. It did not pass through the legendary Devil's Sea, so there was no need to worry about this. For the next few days, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao spent their time on the vast sea. Although it was a little monotonous, Huang Xiaotao did not feel bored at all. Instead, she was very happy. Strictly speaking, these few days were her and Lin Yi's world. Without any interference from outsiders, they could snuggle with their loved ones and quietly cross the vast sea. This was a romantic scene that many girls longed for. As for Lin Yi, although he had never been very open-minded about this kind of thing, he had to be vigilant at all times and stare at the compass, so he was not bored. This journey was not dangerous. The 2 did not encounter any trouble. Even if there were signs of hidden dangers, they were quickly detected by Lin Yi and avoided. There were no accidents. Not far ahead, it should be the verdant Arc Sea. Lin Yi looked ahead, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He looked at the map in his hand and said, "Really?" Huang Xiaotao was not surprised. Instead, she felt a little regretful. She muttered to herself, "Time really flies in the world of the two of us." "That's right, little Tao. Look, there are many people and flying spirit beasts in front of us. Only a cultivator's settlement like the verdant Arc Sea region is able to survive. That's why there are so many people." Lin Yi pointed ahead. Huang Xiaotao raised her head and looked into the distance. She discovered that she could indeed see some moving dots in the distance. Upon closer inspection, she discovered that they were flying spirit beasts carrying people. This meant that even if they weren't in the verdant Arc Sea, they were already very close. Otherwise, if they were in the distant sea, they wouldn't be able to see a single person from day to night, just like the past few days. "That's great. We can finally find a place to rest," Huang Xiaotao said happily. Although it was a pity to say goodbye to the world of the two of them. However, he had been stuck on the back of the spirit bird for the past few days. Even if he didn't do anything, he was still mentally exhausted. What he wanted to do the most right now was to find an inn. Soaking in a hot bath to relax was the highest form of enjoyment. Moreover, in her eyes, as long as she could be with Lin Yi, anywhere was a world for the two of them. Yeah. Lin Yi was also a little excited. After traveling across the sea for so many days, his nerves were tense and he didn't dare to relax at all. As a beginner Golden Elixir realm expert, he had no problems with his physical strength. However, the mental exhaustion that constantly accumulated was really not easy to bear. He really needed to find a place to rest. As the two of them spoke, they urged the spirit bird to speed up. However, before they could completely enter the verdant Arc Sea, a flying spirit beast suddenly rushed over and quickly approached them. Lin Yi was shocked. He couldn't help but think that he was a little too early to be happy. Aside from the sea fog, the biggest trouble on the sea was other cultivators. Just now, he was a little too happy and relaxed his vigilance, but he was immediately targeted. He turned his head to look at the person on the back of the flying spirit beast. The person sitting in the middle of the main seat was a man wearing a gray robe. From his appearance, he seemed to be only in his early 30s. However, this was obviously not his real age. Cultivators could maintain their appearance forever unless they actively aged or changed their appearance. Otherwise, even after hundreds of years, they would always look the same. There would be no change. Lin Yi glanced at this person. This man was quite handsome and belonged to the idol type that was very popular with girls. If he was in the secular world, he would probably be able to make a name for himself in the entertainment circle. However, with Lin Yi's keen perception, he found that under this person's sunny and handsome appearance, there was a very obvious trace of evil hidden. It was even much stronger than the current Su Lingchong and Meng Tong, making people feel afraid. It was obvious that he was not a good person. Beside this man were two young and beautiful female companions. Although they couldn't compare to a peerless beauty like Huang Xiaotao in terms of appearance, they were still rare beauties of high quality. Moreover, both of them were dressed in extremely revealing clothes. There were only two small pieces of cloth covering their private parts, and the rest of their fair and alluring bodies could be seen for all to see. Coupled with their seductive postures and provocative movements from time to time, it truly caused one's blood to boil. Their dressing was comparable to that of the bar girls in the secular world. Lin Yi secretly curled his lips. The Heaven Stage Island followed the ancient customs, and the concept of men and women was very traditional. They also attached great importance to the guard between men and women. Therefore, ordinary women dressed relatively conservatively. Only a foxy like Murong Zhen would deliberately wear such revealing clothes. Compared to the two women in front of him, they were even more so. In addition to this man and two women, there was a stern-looking middle-aged man on the back of the flying spirit beast. Looking at his ordinary clothes, he should be a servant who sat in front and was responsible for driving the flying spirit beast. However, among the four of them, the one that Lin Yi cared about the most was this seemingly ordinary middle-aged man. The evil-looking man on the main seat was in the late stage of the golden elixir realm. He was not difficult to deal with. As for the two women beside him who were wearing revealing clothes, their strength was negligible. They were only in the foundational realm. Only this ordinary-looking middle-aged man, Lin Yi, could not see through his strength. Lin Yi was an expert in the early stage of the golden elixir realm. With his golden finger, he could see through all the realms within the golden elixir realm. However, he could not see through this middle-aged man's strength. This could only mean one thing. This middle-aged man must be a powerful expert above the original infant realm. Lin Yi could not help but be secretly shocked. To be able to make a powerful original infant realm expert willingly become a servant, what was the background of this evil-looking man? That you're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.